All right, good evening. Today is Monday, March 13th, 2023. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education. Do I have a motion to enter into the meeting? Cynthia, second. Laura? All in favor? Great. All right, first order of business is pledge allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're a little light tonight as a board. We're missing two board members who regret not being able to be here, but I'm sure they'll catch up later on. All right, so our first business is a presentation on the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I guess we'll go and sit in the front so we can see.
Let me know when you're all situated. Okay. Good evening, Board President Casson, Vice President Banky, and trustees and our school community here or watching at home. Tonight we continue our conversation around the 23-24 budget. I am joined this evening by Dr. Christopher Keogh, Dr. Kay Sweeney, Dr. Bart Linehan, Mr. Andrew Calaswano, and Ms. Faith Sparks. This presentation shines a light on the budget items related to the Tuckahoe Middle School, Tuckahoe High School. We look at curriculum, programming, staffing, special education, extracurriculars, and athletics. We are proud of everything our middle school, high school has accomplished over the past year, and we look forward to building on that success in our next budget year. I will quickly review the budget process. Our board is driven by a very specific mission to prepare every student for excellence. Our work advances the board goals that you see on this slide. As you know, the budget is based on the 4 pillars of our strategic plan: diverse needs of learners, professional learning, social and emotional learning, and contemporary teaching and learning. By focusing on these 4 areas helps us build our capacity in accomplishing these ambitious goals. Tuckahoe is a small district with a lot to celebrate. Included among these points of pride is our supportive faculty and staff, outstanding fine arts programs, one-to-one devices, cutting-edge technology innovation, and our innovation lab and STEAM programs, on-site instructional technology coaches, rich extracurriculars and community service projects, the full continuum of special education program, research-based writing and early literacy programs, our school resource officer, ACT, SAT prep courses, award-winning and accomplished athletic teams, after-school academic support programs, and our universal pre-K program. Our students achieve at high levels in many areas. We are Tuckahoe proud. These achievements drive our thinking about our strategic planning and process. In academics, our students celebrate acceptances to top colleges, including Princeton, WashU, Cornell, Villanova, NYU, Tulane, Northeastern, University of Florida, all the SUNY schools, and so many more. In athletics, our students receive all league, all conference, and all section honorifics. And in extracurriculars, students achieve at high levels, winning awards in clubs and teams like Science Olympiad and our debate team, and clubs that contribute to the community like Habitat for Humanity, and arts clubs where students express themselves and hone their skills. With a sense of our priorities and driving goals, we turn to analysis of our enrollment in sections. As we said the last few times, college enrollment remains consistent, although we are increasing a kindergarten section, we are decreasing a second grade section. This has no budget implications and keeps class sizes small, which is a board goal. In the middle school, our population also remains steady. In line with board priorities, our average class size remain low. Lastly, we see some growth in our projected general education high school program, but it's still also within just about 12 students. We now move to budget additions and reductions. With our enrollment stable and our strategic plan in full swing, we are looking to build on the positive. Proposed changes in curriculum and materials at William E. Cottle includes resources that help to further align our early literacy program with scientific findings regarding reading instruction. Meanwhile, for our oldest students, we are looking at our novel studies and taking the opportunity to introduce some new texts that align with the more rigorous next generation standards. Additionally, to increase rigor in our science instruction, we will invest in updated lab equipment for our next year's science investigations. In total, changes to the COTL curriculum totals $19,300. Some of these purchases, such as the decodable texts, will also receive state aid. Meanwhile, at the middle school and high school, we will also invest in materials for rigorous science instruction, while also procuring new materials for our growing engineering and STEM programs. We will also purchase subscriptions for writing support software, No Red Ink, vocabulary instruction, vocabulary.com, and set aside money for new novels in the middle school, similar to the elementary school, for the next generation standards. Lastly, members of our science program have been looking at standard-based grading. The total cost of proposed curriculum changes is $12,600. More information about this year's progress and next year's proposal will be provided in the next section of our presentation. Our largest initiative in the Tuckahoe Middle School, Tuckahoe High School is our partnership with Innovative Designs for Education. This year, training will continue to support our previous cohort of teachers while introducing the principles of the Learner Active Technology-Infused Classroom to a new cohort of middle high school teachers. Additionally, we are setting aside some money for developing teachers, working on developing curriculum over the summer for our new elective courses, which you'll hear about very soon. Total budgeted for these professional development initiatives is $23,050. More information, again, about this year's progress in professional development and next year's proposal will be provided in the next section of our presentation when we put the spotlight on the middle school and high school. In reviewing the changes in staffing, it is important to look at these changes as an entire district. Following the advancement of student sections, as I said before, there will be a reduction of a section in grade 2 and an addition of a section in grade K to accommodate smaller class sizes. Meanwhile, following a cohort of special education students in grade 5, there will be a reduction of a 1.0 FTE of special education in the middle school, as we had 2 on the 5th grade level this year. 1 will be added to the middle school, high school. So now we move on to the middle school, high school. In addition to the 1.0 FTE at the middle school, which is taken from the reduction of the elementary school, so that's really 0, we are adding an additional 1.0 FTE in special education for needs of the middle school and high school students. We also increased an additional 0.033 FTE to allow for special education earth science lab. This will only meet once a cycle. We are adding additional electives in the high school. After reviewing our survey of parents who left the district, we learned that many identified a lack of electives as a driving reason. Also, recently, I met with a representative group of students who suggested that we add some more electives. So next year, in addition to electives, like the ones we recently added, statistics and math or science electives like forensics, we will offer high-quality, engaging electives in ELA, social studies, and math. Ultimately, this calls for a 0.4 FTE increase in ELA, a 0.2 FTE increase in math, and a 0.2 FTE increase in social studies. We are also adding a 0.1 FTE in ELA with a focus on writing. In terms of reductions at the middle school, high school, there will be a reduction of a 0.3 FTE due to the restructuring of our math symposium to target students interested in math acceleration and provide them with the necessary skills for success in algebra. That will be for interested 7th grade students who want to get a head start on algebra if they want to take algebra in the 8th grade. We will also have a 0.1 reduction in the Tiger program, as we have other supports in place for kids who are struggling with our tutoring program. Now turning to the district-wide impact, overall we are proposing a modest 0.433 increase in staffing district-wide. This represents an FTE increase of 3.933 and a decrease of 3.5. Again, we are proposing an addition that totals less than a half-time employee. Meanwhile, in terms of extracurriculars, we are looking to expand our WEC Art Club, as this is a really popular club we saw this year with wait lists. Additionally, our STEM extracurriculars, such as Science Olympiad, have been so successful turning curious students into innovative thinkers, we want to put money aside for materials for the program. Additionally, the middle school debate team has taken off with leaps and bounds. Students are motivated to continue their journey with debate, and we want that offered in high school. The total budgeted change for extracurriculars is $4,739. In planning for changes in technology, we are entering a new installment purchase agreement with our local BOCES to fund the replacement of Chromebooks in grades 3, 6, and 9. We are also replacing aging smartboards with new interactive flat screen panels. At the conclusion of this year, we will have funded the replacement of all ARM-based projectors, saving us money on replacement bulbs. The total budgeted change for technology is $27,000. Now, we also have a reduction in one-time expenses. The 2022-23 budget includes amounts for one-time non-recurring expenses. These are not included in the 23-24 budget. These include, in 2022-23, we purchased furniture for the Cottle Library, the middle school art room, and materials and resources for our Atlantic learning spaces. The 2022-23 budget also included funding for the wireless upgrade project. Our wireless access points are at the end of their life and no longer supported. We purchased new ones, and they will be installed over the summer. The 2022-23 budget also included funding for the one-time purchase of curriculum materials that included multi-year subscriptions. Again, these were one-time costs and will be revisited at the end of their respective contracts. None of these are included in this budget. Total reduction of one-time expenses is $296,000. In total, with all the changes to support the advancement of our strategic plan, we are showing a net reduction of $152,391 to these areas that were discussed in the previous slides. We now turn the spotlight to the great work happening at the middle school, high school. I invite Dr. Linehan to get us started.
Thank you, Dr. Goodman, the Board of Education, for this opportunity to celebrate our achievements at the middle school, high school, and our proposal going forward. Tonight, I will get to share our most recent modernization and exciting new facilities. Dr. Keogh will share the ways our strategic pillar of contemporary teachers and teaching and learning has been advanced this past year, and how the current proposal will continue to move us forward. Dr. Sweeney will also dive on the special ed. Mr. Calaswano will celebrate our athletes and our scholars, and I'll conclude with a celebration of our artists. Moving along, the modernization of our cafeteria. The new middle school, high school cafeteria is a marked improvement to our facility. We first opened the cafeteria in February. We look forward to inviting our community to this new facility very soon. With the funding from the 2021 bond, our original middle school, high school cafeteria was renovated, and students get to enjoy this new modern state-of-the-art cafeteria. In the meantime, I assure you, the students are very much enjoying the space. The new facility allows for varied and delicious menus with a great team of food servicers. The furniture is temporary, but even that shows a different arrangement for groups of friends. The big TV screens highlight our students, their achievements, their classes, their work in the arts and athletics. It also includes a positive message board to display to boost our SEL. Thank you to the community, the Board of Education, and all those who work to support this new learning environment for our students. Next, our library. We opened our library this past week with tours of every English language arts class. Much like our cafeteria, the library represents a bold, modern step forward for our district. Furniture in our library is flexible, allowing the space to transform based upon the learning needs of our students. Students have the option to sit at tables, to sit in different learning spaces, or they can sit on the learning steps, or in more private learning rooms. Funding for this space allows for the creation of a space that will, with an emerging recording studio in the vestibule below. Two teachers were introduced to this space at a recent professional development day, and their excitement was palpable. Requests to reserve the library were immediate. Students are enjoying the new space last week, and the reviews were 5-star from our students. While the technology is still being installed and some furniture and flourishes are still on the punch list, we can be proud of all that we have accomplished in working with the new library. The space will definitely make a big difference today and for decades to come, so thank you. These are just previews of, and they not do justice, these pictures do not do justice to this space. You will get to see how spectacular the library really is in our upcoming open house. We now turn to Dr. Kehoe, who will bring you the work done in contemporary teaching and learning. Thank you.
Thank you to Dr. Linehan. Thank you to Dr. Goodman, Board President and Vice President, and trustees for the opportunity to share some of the work we've engaged in regarding our contemporary teaching and learning pillar. In order to prepare all students for excellence, we need to employ modern and bold teaching strategies to meet the time. For this presentation, we will focus on the 3 areas you see here. These are the areas that are woven into the superintendent's budget proposal. So let's begin with science. In accordance with shifts in standards, we are moving toward models of what we like to call ambitious science teaching. It's a comprehensive model of teaching science that involves 3 distinct areas. First, we have practices. These are practices that scientists engage in as they investigate, build models, and develop theories. The term practices emphasizes that scientific investigations require not only skill, but some basis of specific content knowledge. This requires we think about what we have students do in our classrooms. Meanwhile, cross-cutting concepts have application across all domains of science. These are the recurring themes or topics that link the different domains of science. For example, patterns, cause and effect, scale, and systems. New frameworks emphasize that these concepts be made explicit, leaving nothing to chance rather than, oh, this is like what we did in bio. The goal is that the link is clearly established. Lastly, we have the disciplinary core ideas. These focus K-12 science curriculum instruction and assessment on the most important aspects of science. To be considered core, the idea that's being taught should meet at least 2, ideally 4, of the criteria you see here. Should have a broad importance across multiple sciences or engineering disciplines, provide a key tool for understanding or investigating complex ideas, relate to the interests and life experiences of students, and be teachable and learnable over multiple grades at increasing levels of depth and sophistication. So again, while the assessments and standards obviously identify what's a core idea and what's not, we as instructors want to think about these criteria when we're developing our lessons. The heart of this multidimensional approach to science teaching is phenomenon-based science instruction. A phenomenon is defined here, and it could be something that's observed or measured either by a person or by some type of tool. Examples include wolves howling at the moon or a flower blossoming. Previously, these phenomena would have culminated a lesson or a unit. You would have learned about wolf pack behavior, and then you would have seen it in action. But here, we want those types of phenomena to drive the instruction. These phenomena should also further the core ideas that help students to understand those concepts of their respective disciplines, such as biology or earth science, and the connections among them. So this mindset has obviously had an impact on the way we plan, teach, and assess. So to achieve this, the science department has been hard at work, but luckily we've been far ahead of some of these shifts. Teachers have provided opportunities for hands-on, minds-on learning activities. You'll see an example later in the presentation, but another one I can think of is the design of bionic arms in Ms. Richter's science class, where they're learning about computers and robots as related to tendons and muscles and nerve endings. 2 of the teachers on our science department are among the New York State master teachers, leading the charge statewide in advancing these standards and instructional practices. Dr. Mosier has worked with all our departments on formative assessment and data collection and has worked particularly with science. We've also begun discussions about the science sequence, particularly the options of acceleration in the middle school. We've reviewed local offerings at nearby districts, and next year a study group will convene about whether or not it should be earth science or living environment that's offered to our 8th graders. A shift like this would have implications for a couple of years related to staffing and curriculum, so it's a shift that we want to make sure that we're entering comprehensively. Additionally, as we return to the New York State learning standards, Ms. Buchanan, one of our science teachers, engaged in work over the previous summer on standards-based grading. She launched a pilot with a Kindy, it's that logo there in the corner of the slide, to help her and her students assess their mastery of the different science standards. In the next slide, she will discuss this work.
Completely different, right? Right now we have numbers that apply to letter grades. So right now, if a student says to me, well, I have a 9D, that really means nothing to them other than I have a 90% and now I'm going to be on the principal's list, which is wonderful, but that doesn't really tell them the measurement of their success in my classroom, and it doesn't necessarily transfer to their success on the Regents as well. In my classroom, I'm moving towards standards-based grading, which is a way for me to assess students on their abilities to succeed in my classroom outside of just merely assigning an arbitrary number to what they know. So I have the ability with standards-based gradings to say whether or not a student has mastered a particular standard in essence. And it also gives me the ability to assess students individually and to have students be able to go back and do more material learning in order to master that particular standard. So Kindy is a program that allows me, right now what I'm trying to do is all of my questions are aligned to a particular standard within the chemistry curriculum assigned by the state. And with a Kindy, I can go and see how many kids have actually mastered a particular standard based on the assigned standard. And Kindy also tells me if more than half of the students have missed a particular question. And that tells me as a teacher that I really need to revisit that question because I did not teach it appropriately. They didn't understand the question, or there's something wrong with the grading. So that's how I'm using it now. Well, Dr. Mosher's proficient in how to put together, different materials for the students and me. So she's helped develop a Google Doc that students fill in after every exam. So I've assigned the standards. They have to go through and say whether or not they've gotten 1, 2, 3, or 4 correct of that standard. And then I can use and analyze that and say, okay, well, you've got 4 of this particular standard correct. This is a mastery in that particular area. So the New York State science standards are phenomena-based, and the standards are completely different than the way that they're listed now. And the only way for students for us to gauge whether or not they've mastered it is whether or not we're actually looking at the standards as opposed to just assigning a grade. But I find that a Kindy is very helpful for me as a teacher to really, analyze the data that I use. I particularly really like data, but I really like the fact that students, if I keep pushing this direction, that students really can take ownership over their grades.
So we were able to wrangle a no-fee pilot of a Kindy, but you'll see that it's reflected in next year's budget so that we can continue with it. Moving to ELA, our team of ELA teachers in the high school have been focused on inquiry-based curriculum design, while teachers in our middle school have been exploring ways to use data provided by benchmarks and progress monitoring to support and challenge our students. There's also been a focus on informational texts. At the high school, we used modules from Brave New Teaching to reflect on our resources, scope, and sequence. This led directly into our work with LADIC, which you'll hear about later, as 3 of our teachers participated in the Summer Academy. The department also mapped out resources, audited our units for standards alignment, and we're hosting at the upcoming Superintendent's Conference Day transition meetings that bridge CODL with the middle school and middle school with the high school. We've also piloted programs such as No Red Ink and vocabulary.com, and launched a cross-content vocabulary initiative this year. So we determined vocabulary to be a focus of ours after a review of some of the data, like iReady, but also by analyzing writing samples. And the department agreed that branching this work out through the assistance of our Writing Revolution coaches, this would have a significant impact on student writing. So we led trainings, we began work with vocabulary.com, and communicated to the middle school, high school staff that in essence we are all vocabulary teachers. And this included imparting the importance of cross-curricular vocabulary instruction with a focus on academic cross-disciplinary terms. So This might mean for science or math teachers, you're not just focusing on words like molecule or line segment. You would be thinking about how to make sure kids really understand terms like analyze or disaggregate, because those words would have correspondence and connection to other classes. Or spending time to unpack high-level vocabulary like miasma or supposition. We're already beginning to see positive results in some of the student writing samples that we've been looking at. So we provide this slide here to show that our work is driven and monitored by data. At the middle school, we're lucky to have a universal benchmark assessment that allows us to track the progression of students in the window of time since the fall. And we've seen growth in the percentage of students performing above grade level and a reduction in the percentage of students performing below grade level. And these are exactly where we want to see those plus and minus signs. Meanwhile, at the high school, we don't have a universal benchmarking system, more on that later, but we do see in our largest metrics very positive results. Whether that is the passing rate of the English Regents, which is the highest in the school, of 94.12%, or the mean average of our AP students in English literature and composition with a 4.45, which is a point above the New York State average. And we share this to communicate that we are identifying priorities rooted in data and monitoring our progress through the use of these objective assessment measures. So evolving standards continue an emphasis on informational text over literary text, especially as students get older. So we've made a more concerted effort to introduce more informational text into the curriculum. We use Newsella to connect students with differentiated nonfiction articles and to pair fiction and nonfiction texts. And we're already seeing results. On the iReady analysis of comprehension of informational text, we see, again, positive percentage growth in the areas of students performing above grade level and reductions, as we should, in the students performing below grade level. And that's just in informational text. Meanwhile, as you may know, the writing revolution provides explicit sentence-level writing instruction. In many ways, this is based in the same brain research that has informed recent shifts in the science of reading. TWR teaches writing and content simultaneously. There's no, all right, everyone, it's time to learn how to write. Those lessons are woven into learning about science, social studies, and even math. It recognizes that writing is a highly complex cognitive process. And wielding that when teaching complex concepts has been terrific. And Tuckahoe is really a leader in this. So as an example, the writing revolution leads trainings for teachers throughout the world. I was part of a virtual training with some of our new teachers, and there were participants from Australia that must have been up, I believe, at like 1 a.m. to be able to participate. And there were about 300 or 400 people on the call, and they were showing exemplars. They showed 3 different exemplars, and one of them was from their early work with Tuckahoe. It's Tuckahoe schools, and I felt like I saw a celebrity. Like, that's us. I almost unmuted myself. But so Tuckahoe's really led the charge in introducing some of these research-based cognitive approaches to writing. It's provided a great foundation. Currently, our 9th graders are working on a cumulative science research project in which they are implementing writing strategies, skills, and resources from TWR. In ELA, however, as we reach the higher grades, we have seen a need to provide something that allows them to further advance their writing skills. In an analysis of student writing samples, we really wanted to see the use of more advanced structures, text structures of writing in the higher grades and used with more frequency. So this investigation brought us to No Red Ink. No Red Ink is a high school resource. It's an adaptive writing curriculum provider, which means it responds to the needs of the students and what type of data the teachers are sharing. Its materials align with both state standards as well as the texts that form our curriculum. So our teachers immediately saw connections to the materials that they're using. This is a natural next step for TWR. We see No Red Ink taking students to their next level in the ELA classrooms. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, the middle school has iReady, which allows us to pinpoint some of those skills and strategies on which we need to focus. iReady does not go into the high school, but No Red Ink does. So at the end of this year, we're also doing a low-cost pilot with them right now. We will assign diagnostics to every student, similar to the way we do with iReady in the middle school, that will allow us to focus our instruction in the coming year, as well as monitor our progress throughout the year. Here, Ms. Diarco helps to explain how these resources, vocabulary.com and No Red Ink, help us to further our goals in the areas of writing and reading comprehension.
I am am so thrilled that we have no red ink. So essentially we were looking for a program to address higher level thinking skills and thinking skills, writing skills, and it was very difficult to find enough practice. It was very difficult to all be on the same page, to collect data on students, and so I started doing some research, my colleagues started doing some research, and we happened upon No Red Ink. We spoke to each other about it. Some of our colleagues had used it in a different district, looked into it, piloted it on the free program, and decided that this was amazing. We got great feedback from the students and instantaneous data. What No Red Ink does is it continues to test the students, and I say test, I really mean have them practice until they achieve mastery, and gives us multiple modalities. So it's not just being able to choose it in a multiple choice, it's transferring the skill then into writing. It really is helping us to align curriculum because they have prompts and writing assignments for every single book. So when we're having meetings, we can look at the data, we can talk about the types of assignments that we're giving, there's no guesswork, and we also are able to look at the standards that students are falling short with and the ones that are that they're actually mastering, so that we are using our instructional time more efficiently. So vocabulary.com is another tool that we've been using, and it's very similar to No Red Ink in the fact that it will test students until they achieve mastery. So they have the option to go on and practice and practice and practice a word. What it does is it picks out words in context for students that would take us hours upon hours to do. So if you want to switch a new book, if students don't understand the words that are in there, they can go on vocabulary.com, and we're also using that as a tool. So currently I can give you an example. My students have a test on Tuesday, and they now can go on and practice on vocabulary.com with a practice quiz that I gave them, which is similar to the test that has it in context, in real world context. So it's not just the book that it appears in, but how it appears in print, newspapers, magazines, other works of literature. So they're seeing it transfer into real life context. So we're using that. The other thing is that it's cross-curricular. So I know that it goes into science, it goes into social studies, and that's really what we want. So oftentimes words that are used in social studies, we see them used in English, and so they're able to see that. So for example, we're using the word ratify. We're reading Animal Farm in 10th grade, and that's something that they would have spoken about in social studies, so it kind of transfers over. So they're both amazing programs, and I'm so grateful that the district invested in this. So you're investing in the department, you're investing in the students. So they have SAT vocabulary that frequently comes up, and they can test on that. But No Red Ink also has it broken down by skills. So students can go in, if they're taking an ACT, if they're taking an SAT, they can go in and they can go skills that are tested often, skills that are not tested that often, and it customizes the program to what they need to do. So as soon as we got the premium version, I had my students on it immediately, playing with it, encouraging them, and giving them assignments. So that definitely helps. And it also, vocabulary.com also provides data. So I know what words students are having trouble with. I know what words that they have mastered. So it just makes me an efficient teacher, and I'm able to better communicate that to my department and to administration.
So yeah, that was one of the things that we saw in those low-cost pilots that we've been running with both of these programs, is that in addition to being a resource for us as instructors, we saw that there were a lot of test prep materials that could also really help kids that are preparing for tests like the SAT and ACT. So the programs really served multiple purposes. Additionally, the superintendent's budget calls for an increase in staffing in the ELA department. This will allow us to have one teacher per grade level in our ELA department, similar to the model at the middle school. Right now, teachers are divided among grades, making focused curriculum work challenging, as teachers are often pulled in different directions during the day. With one teacher per grade level, we can pull together a team much easier to engage in responsive curriculum work, as well as make connections for cross-curriculum work. For example, issues in the 10th grade can lead us to examine our scope and sequence in the 9th grade. And with one teacher to pass the baton, the pacing is far more consistent. So now we turn to the learner active technology infused classrooms. This is really an infusion of structures and philosophy aimed at helping students to take charge of their learning. This is a recurring theme in our work, and at the secondary level, I know I heard it kind of recurring through the interviews with Ms. Buchanan and Ms. Diarco. It's based in activating a felt need to learn something. Students should really feel a desire to go out and form these really deep understandings relating to the content. And then the teachers are designing space and resources for students to actively construct that knowledge. So whether that is challenging students to solve a crime scene, explaining variations in weather, or conflict mapping out high school social issues that the way you might do a Shakespearean text. The Authentic Learning Unit requires students to schedule, to research, to test, to collaborate, and present, really flipping the traditional model of classroom instruction on its head. So here I'm just going to speak through some examples of the laddie in action. Because when you walk into a laddie, or a laddick, I don't know how they pronounce the abbreviation, but I can't keep saying those 5 words. When you walk into a laddick, it just looks different. So for example, the teacher is actively trying to minimize their time at the front of the classroom. It doesn't mean that they're never in front of the classroom, and there's definitely areas in which lecture makes sense, but they definitely try to reduce that time. There is far more emphasis on students taking ownership of their learning, of students taking charge. So a lot of the conversations the teacher's having with the student isn't to answer questions that are related to content, it is help to drive process. Here you'll see that students are studying weather conditions and barometric readings in local communities to track changes and examine differences in weather patterns in Westchester County. This is part of a really important part of the LADIC, this idea of relevance and authenticity, and that it's something related to what they're doing in the world. You'll also notice that students work in groups, and that there's a lot of movement in a LADIC, that students will get up, will walk over to somewhere else, they'll write down if they have a question, they might collaborate with another group and come back to theirs. So it's a really active environment, as the title says. In the corner, I think it's hard to see in this video, but there's a station called the resource station. And the resource station is a really nice feature of this learning environment, because it's a repository for all the types of instructional materials that kids may or may not need. So during the summer PD, we used a resource station. And when I was working with teachers on how to create websites or how to record podcasts, some teachers needed to know how to do that, some teachers did not. So when I wrote down the notes on how to do it, I just photocopied them and left those on the resource station, so teachers that wanted to do that could go and collect that resource. It allows for the design of a library that's ultimately very differentiated in terms of resources. Kids can contribute to that resource. If a kid designs a how-to guide or notes on how to accomplish something, they can contribute to the resource center. You'll also notice, I think we might have missed it, but the contributions of students help to advance the learning for the class. So again, in a typical classroom, teachers provide information and students use it as instructed. But here, based on the students' analysis, they're filling out a chart based on the different towns that their groups have been assigned, so that they can then track those changes as a whole. Students are actively constructing that information. And here, this is a great example because it's a topic as dense and challenging as earth science, no less. So I'd also like to show you an example of the product of an authentic learning unit. This is a really cool example because I don't know if the board remembers, but last year we shared an example from Ms. Pravate's entrepreneurship class where students shared prototypes of the design they were creating. And this summer we talked about that unit in particular and ways that we could add some rigor and some relevance to that based on the models of the concepts of the IDE. And I know some of you have read about this in our happenings. But in this revised task statement, students weren't just asked to design a product, they were focused on a particular corner of the market, kids' toys, and used actual market research conducted down at the William E. Cottle Elementary School. We had a connection, so we connected them. The video here shows some examples of their market launches.
Entrepreneurship Showcase. So, does anyone know by raising their hand, what is an entrepreneur? Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's someone who makes things. And to research their target audience, which in this case is all of you. So you completed that Google form for us about your interests, and we took that data and we created products we thought that you would enjoy. So has anyone ever made anything in art class or in STEAM class? It takes a long time, right? Because we have to brainstorm, and we have to design, and create. And then you may notice that some of the entrepreneurs will walk around with their products so that you can see a closer look. So now I'm going to introduce our first group of entrepreneurs for Animal Color Raceway.
We wanted to create a fun and energetic experience that featured the right amount of competitive nature. One of the reasons that we created a race is because it provides equal opportunity for all the players. In addition, we loved incorporating bright colors since it made the game more aesthetically pleasing and exciting.
So this is the print tab we made, and it's also over there. We used one of the teachers at our school, and we said no boredom in our game. And then, like, this is a player who, senior, who's on the football team. John Baker. Yeah, John Baker. Yeah. We said that this is his favorite game.
So we made a dice, and you roll. So you start here, and you pick like one of these things that we made. But there's also on the way to the finish line, there's like pick a card places. So you pick one of these cards. And it's like, go back 3, go forward 3.
Hello, 4th graders. My name's Amanda Shkreli. I'm in the 10th grade, and I'd like to introduce you to Backpack Mysteries. So first, I'd like to start off with my origin story. I saw that 97.5% of you either loved or liked mystery boxes or surprises, so that's how I decided to do Backpack Mysteries. I remember when I was in the 4th grade, me and my classmates used to have a bunch of competitions to see who could have the most backpack keychains, or the most keychains on their backpack. So I wanted to bring that tradition back to Cottle, so that's why I've created these products for you. Matthew, if you could show them all the possible ones they could get with this edition. There's a leaf, a snowflake, a seashell, and a rose. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Good morning, 4th grade Cottle students. Today I'm with Jameer and Joey, and we'll be presenting our product, Boardmasters.
So Boardmasters is just like regular chess with a unique twist. As you can see, each piece is custom design, and so it has a fun spin as opposed to regular chess, which is kind of boring.
Here we got, this is the how-to guide basically. Teaches you about all the individual pieces, all the special moves. So for new users, just make sure you look at this and you'll be a true master of the board.
Here's our origin. The origin of Boardmasters comes from 3 high school students who want to make a change in the youth chess community. Jameer, Sal, and Joey, which is us, came together to release such a product that would change the mindset of young children aspiring to learn chess.
Hi guys, my name is Maria Rodriguez. I'm a 15-year-old entrepreneur, and this is my game, Mystery Mania. Do any of you guys like to watch like TV shows like Inspector Gadget, Scooby-Doo, or Alana Holmes from Netflix? These are pictures from the actual game. This includes a evidence file that has information within it. This is a commercial ad I made for the game. Hey detective, we need you. There's been a robbery of a stolen diamond donut in the Tuckahoe Museum, and we need your help. Mystery Mania provides all of the information and evidence you need to solve this crime. There's puzzles, clues, and mind games that will connect you to the correct criminal. Explore the world of corruption with friends, or play solo and use our customizable detectives. But do you have what it takes to convict the right robber? Or will you leave this game with a cold case? Thank you. Any questions?
And I just loved also the things that Ms. Pravate didn't explicitly teach, such as like the speaker skills, the use of the multimedia, and also that they all dressed up. That was so cute. And even the ones that wore hooded sweatshirts, that's also how entrepreneurs dress. So it was all really perfectly on theme. All of this is possible because of the intensive professional development and coaching for both teachers and administrators. These experiences kick off in the summer and then are woven throughout the school year. These costs are reflected in this year's proposed budget. And we so appreciate the support of the board and the superintendent in this work because the shifts we've seen in classrooms are really exciting and mobilizing. And I'll conclude with some voices from students. Here we have students in Ms. Vincenzi's ELA class sharing their reactions to studying conflict in Romeo and Juliet through this project-based model. You'll hear the refrains of authenticity, that they're making connections to modern life, rigor, it's that the conflicts go far beyond Montague versus Capulet, and relevant work products, the short moral plays that they create as a work product.
Yes, so over the past few weeks, we have been reading the play Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. After every act, we come together as a class and analyze and explain the conflict, characters, modern-day conflict, and literary devices. This helps us get a better understanding of the play.
Yes, I think this is different from other units that we did. we've been doing a lot of projects, and that's much different, and it's more like interactive, I feel.
We did this text message project where we translated the Old English from the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet to modern day slang, if you would. And I think that better helped me understand. I think it helped me relate to the book more by being able to see it in a way that I'm used to seeing real life text. It helped me understand the issues that they went through in Romeo and Juliet's time to the issues I go through now.
Yeah, some examples of issues that they went through were like overthinking, anxiety, love, and judgment of others. And I feel like a lot of kids our age can relate to those issues. So it's very helpful to like see that in this book.
This one is, so we wrote our own play based on the conflicts in Romeo and Juliet. So for example, this one is Trust Your Instincts, and this one is Peer Pressure, which are very big conflicts today. And in the project, we did positive outcomes instead of negative outcomes that were in the play.
Yeah, I think it helped me realize how to solve problems in a way that's more constructive than, the way that they solve them in the book.
Yeah, the peer pressure from the play was kind of from like the people around them, and like they wanted them to act a certain way and be a certain way. And Romeo and Juliet kind of like went against like their family and their friends, and that's where the conflicts like came from.
One example of a real life conflict in Romeo and Juliet is peer pressure. Romeo is being pressured to go to a party that he doesn't feel comfortable at. I wrote my story about peer pressure because I feel like that's a conflict that people still go through today, and it's very common.
I agree. Also, I wrote my story, Friendship is for Life, about Romeo's depression, and I feel like it's very important that it was spoken on because a lot of kids like our age go through this.
In addition, he was being made fun of because he was depressed over Rosaline, his obsession for her, which is also a very common thing that's happening right now to children our age.
I think it really helped me better understand it and helped me relate it to real life, and I think that helped a lot throughout the unit.
And so while you heard a lot tonight about those three specific areas, there's a lot of work going on in all the departments, whether it's cohesion and articulation in our math or music department, reviewing the new frameworks and assessments in our social studies department, the use of iReady for progress monitoring in the middle school, or the early stages of development of these exciting new electives that we have the potential to add with this new budget. We seize the opportunity to reflect and to continuously improve. I'm now pleased to pass the mic to my colleague, Dr. Sweeney.
So, to accomplish the delivery of special education programs and services in the least restrictive environment, the district offers a full continuum of programs and supports where an IEP can be implemented. It ranges from the less restrictive, for example, the general education class with monitoring services, to more restrictive service settings, such as special class. Services are generally portable, and special education is delivered to the student to enable them to access FAPE, free and appropriate public education, within their LRE, we love our acronyms, least restrictive environment, to the maximum extent possible. For next year, we are anticipating that our rising sixth grade students will need the smaller classes for English, math, and social studies. In addition, we will need to have a special class for English and math for seventh graders. They are currently in that environment now and flourishing. This is to ensure that our students are provided a program that truly meets their individual and unique needs. Next year at the high school, we are looking to provide special education teacher support for statistics and mathematics, and daily consultant special ed teacher support for geometry regions. We want to ensure that our students receiving special education benefits, that they benefit from a robust educational experience. Our teachers in our middle school and high school life skills classes continue to work collaboratively and diligently. High school students are entered back into the community for work-based learning opportunities, and they're at job sites such as Spring Hill Suites, Tucked Away, Fresh Market, Stop and Shop, and at Cottle Elementary School. The school-based enterprise Tiger Bites became fully operational again. They worked hard to prepare some treats for all of you tonight. Go get that. Coming. Excellent. Excellent. And we have a donation jar because we like to support our students continuing to buy products to practice those vocational skills. Okay. We have chocolate chip cookies and Tiger treats. Teachers collaborated more intensely this year. Thanks to COVID lifting and the opportunity for students to have face-to-face more often, we saw our students being included with their typical peers more often for project-based learning, and we also discovered a few had some amazing talents in music, which was really fabulous. For our graduating seniors, we are anticipating that all students with IEPs are going to graduate with a Regents High School diploma this year, and we do have one student exiting our life skills program, and he'll receive the SAC, the Skills and Achievement Commencement credential. In addition, we have solidified our Pioneer League team and participated in several sports, and we started a few new school-based enterprises. You'll see here we have Tiger Prints. The students take orders from teachers at Cottle to make photocopies, and then they have to count, and they have to copy, and they have to collate and alphabetize and give them to the teachers. In addition, we just purchased a laminating machine with a family had donated some money to our program on behalf of their son. So now we are able to laminate for teachers, all real-life vocational preparedness for our students. We also launched Tiger Bubbles, where the students reach out to the coaches of the teams, and at the conclusion of the season, they put it in order to have their uniforms washed and folded, and our students take the lead with that as well. One great thing we also did was during the holidays, you'll see up there some examples. Our students worked with our art teacher, Ms. Prevette, who was just on the slide before, to draw and color in holiday cards. The faculty then got to choose a design, choose an individual message, which the students had to type out and paste, and send holiday cards to each other in the building to celebrate. So having the special classes at the middle school and the high school not only serves our community well by offering a full continuum of support for our students in their own district, but also allows us to be in a position to support students from surrounding districts who may not have these programs. We have moved intensive needs classes to our secondary level as students have aged out of the elementary school, and now provide high-quality in-district programs for students with more severe needs that have graduated from Cottle and are now at our middle school. If our district has at least 3 students with similar needs within the same age range, it is proven to be more cost-effective to establish an in-house program than to place the students in an out-of-district program. The most important added benefit is that we get to have staff here with the right skills and training, and our students can go to school with their siblings and peers instead of in an out-of-district program. As Ms. Starks presented in a previous budget presentation, the tuition adds to our district's revenue and helps to support our goals. So in 2021 and 22, we accepted 8 new special education students from out of district into our district programs. And so far this year, we have accepted 5 new out of district special education students into our programs, helping to mitigate the impact of non-resident students that have either graduated, aged out, or have moved. 61% of the new students accepted in the past 2 years have been at our elementary school level, and we hope to continue to support them through middle school and high school as out-of-district students. I now turn to Mr. Calisuono to discuss our outstanding sports and extracurricular activities.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. Good evening, everybody. So I will be celebrating our champions, and this year we so far have quite a few champions. So I'd like to begin by recognizing our fall sports teams. So the first bullet up there really shows the connection between the academic environment and athletics. So each of our fall varsity athletic teams were awarded the Scholar Athlete Team Award by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. To receive Scholar Athlete team recognition, the team's average GPA for 75% of the roster must be greater than or equal to 90%, and every single one of our varsity teams achieved that honor. Further, we had numerous teams achieve multiple championships. So up on the board, you can see our varsity football team was crowned section champions. Our varsity girls cross country team in their second year of existence were crowned section champions, and our varsity girls soccer team was named runners-up in the section finals. We also had numerous teams make deep playoff runs, so our girls cross country team was named league champions, our girls soccer team, and our girls volleyball team was named co-league champions this year. We also had 2 coaches from our fall sports season named Coach of the Year. So our football coach, John DiArco, and our girls soccer coach, Stephanie Martino, were both awarded that honor. We had a student named to the Golden Dozen team, which is a huge accomplishment that I don't think I remember seeing in my entire time here at Tuckahoe. But our Tuckahoe High School football standout, John Benke, was named to the Golden Dozen by the Westchester chapter of the National Football Foundation and Hall of Fame. This honor only goes to 12 of the region's top football scholar athletes, so that's a huge accomplishment. Lastly, we had numerous other nominations for Low HUD Player of the Week. We had, in the fall season, 8th grader Brooke Matarazzo, who actually won that award, and it was really cool having a middle school student voted into that category. For the winter season, I just received today that, same as the fall, all of our winter varsity athletic teams received Scholar Athlete Team Awards by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, again with the same criteria as mentioned before. Our winter season also saw some deep playoff runs. Our varsity girls basketball team, for the second year in a row, were named section champions. Our varsity boys basketball team were named runners-up. They lost up at the county center, but had a great season. And lastly, our varsity cheerleading team went down to Disney and really represented Tuckahoe well, coming 8th in the nation versus over 100 other schools, and then came back and competed in sectionals. They also received runners-up. We had our new girls basketball coach, Silvio DeSalvatore, who was named Coach of the Year for Conference 3. We had Sophia Calasaco, who earned Low HUD Player of the Week for actually the last week of the season, who performed incredibly up at the county center. And we also, in our first year of our merger with Eastchester for their wrestling program, we had junior Kai Sheffield, who was selected to be one of the top wrestlers to compete in the Northeast tournament up at Sullivan Community College, and only the top wrestlers in the section earned bids, so that was big. As far as our spring season goes, the weather did not cooperate with us today, but we did get some time indoors, so our varsity and JV sports began today. We got all of our practices in, we came indoors for most of them, and our modified season will begin on March 27th. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Next, we have the opportunity to celebrate our scholars. So we've selected a few of our activities and clubs here at the school. So we'll begin with Science Olympiad. So our middle school Science Olympiad team participated recently in the Lower Hudson Valley Division B tournament at Scarsdale Middle School. This consisted of 20 different events and 30 competing teams. We were broken up into 2 teams, and they both outranked numerous other teams from across Westchester County, and our teams medaled in 7 different categories of events, and our advisors mentioned that it was extremely competitive this year, so that's a huge honor. We had 41 middle school students compete on our team this year. Our high school Science Olympiad team also competed. They achieved 6 individual medals in their competition, and they were awarded in the areas of science such as anatomy and physiology, cell biology, and chemistry lab. We want to congratulate all of our Science Olympiad students on a job well done. Next up, our debate team. So we had the honor of hosting our first ever tournament here in Tuckahoe. So on January 21st, TMS hosted the New York region's top debate teams from all over the county, all over New York State. So we had actually over 150 competitors here, and it really showed a wide collaborative effort between our custodial staff, our security team, our administrators and teachers, and it was really a great tournament. Our students all were awarded different prizes and awards, so it was a great tournament. Next is NYSSMA, which is our high school and middle school chorus. So they participated in a NYSSMA festival over at Scarsdale High School. We had over 30 students who prepared solos, and they were performed beautifully, which were featured on our Facebook page. Next up, our National Honor Societies. So we have our National Junior Honor Society as well as our National Honor Society. So our National Junior Honor Society has participated in 2 fundraisers this year. The first one, they collected character Band-Aids for the Maria Ferreira Children's Hospital. And most recently, they collected toiletries, diapers, and other items for the Ronald McDonald House in Valhalla. Our National Honor Society has had a great partnership with ECAP, the Eastchester Community Action Partnership Organization. So this year they participated in the Thanksgiving food drive in November, and they also supported the holiday drive in December by wrapping gifts that were collected here at the school. Lastly, our Habitat for Humanity is arguably our most popular organization here at the school. We have 50 active members in that club, and they've participated in 4 builds so far this year, 2 in Mamaroneck and 2 in Mount Vernon, and they also participated in a walkathon for their sponsor, the Fuller Center, in November. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Linehan, who will discuss our wonderful school performances.
Thank you, Mr. Calasuno. We're celebrating our artists. We celebrate the ways our Tuckahoe education has allowed our artists to refine and hone their crafts. In the visual arts, with the gorgeous self-portraits like the ones you see displayed here, obviously they're displayed outside too. Please take a look as you go through the lobby, middle school and high school. There'll be an upcoming art show in May. Our winter and spring concerts for our choral, band, and string students showcase the talent and learning of our students. A moving performance by our NYSSMA students, all county and all state students, are well documented. And of course, we were all treated this weekend to an exceptional performance by our students and their advisors in a wonderful performance of Beauty and the Beast. At this time, we'll give you the final showing.
Is the interactions you have with other people. I probably wouldn't have got to know, and I get to know them better through Pitt, and it makes a lot of different connections that I could later intertwine in my academic career. Oh yeah, it's like a whole new experience for me, at least point. You have to follow the singers and stuff like that, and it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling when you finally get that connectedness that you were really looking for. Favorite experience? It was definitely during the singing, like the huge numbers like such as Gaston, Belle, Be Our Guest, Mob Song, that were just very magical for me and creating good music.
It's delicious! Don't believe me? Ask the dishes. Take and see. They can dance. After all this is fun. And the dinner here is never something bad. Don't point anymore if I can't love her. No!
I would say it was completely eye-opening. Just a different mentality, a different world that just really took advantage of everything that it had access to, I think, and really just not limiting any potential, you know, really getting the best of everyone, a positive environment, a place where you can come and you see people singing and not afraid to express themselves, and just a wonderful place, and just really stepping onto a different plane of existence and pretending like you are somebody else and exhibiting just a part of you that you never knew existed. And I think it was the most adrenaline-filling, exciting experience of my life. And I think you rely on everybody. You know, your line sets off, their line sets off your line, which you're gonna set up a cue for the crew, which sets off the pit. You know, everybody is, you know, entangled, and I think that is really what a team is, relying on the guy next to you or the girl next to you to make you look better. You need one another. You cannot do it alone. And I think it really emphasized that. Like looking at people, like you could tell they were nervous, but like we're gonna do it together. Like we're all going out there together to put on a show, and it's like I've never felt so alive in my entire life, and I think that was the best part.
Tech really like opened my eyes, and it taught me like so many fascinating and wonderful things about what it's like to be kind of, I guess, like behind the scenes. And you know, I really admire the work ethic of like everyone else in Tech Crew, because there are so many little pieces that have to come together in order for everything to be like, for everything to run smoothly to watch. And I was just moving the spotlight, but I know that like people like Bia are like doing like everything to ensure that costume changes run smoothly, that props are in place. You know, it was a really magical experience, and I'm someone who really likes to be alone, and so being in such a cooperative environment was like really eye-opening for me. And I'm glad that I was able to end my senior year doing something so incredible.
So I've done 7 shows here at Tuckahoe. I just auditioned with a group of middle schoolers because I was too scared to do anything, and it was one of the best decisions of my life. When I was younger, I did not like to talk to anybody, and when I have to just talk to people that I don't know, when I'm forced to, you just kind of turn on a switch, and it's like you're performing, and you can still be yourself, but it's an extension of yourself. It's not really just you. You're just I have gained so much confidence doing this show, but this year you just got to have fun on stage, and I got to make jokes and just be witty and sarcastic, and Cogsworth is an extension of myself. He's my personality times 1,000, and then with the cast, you spend so much time together rehearsing and running lines and just hanging out in between scenes, and just when you're on stage, it's a connection that you would never really have with anybody else, and it's all these unlikely people just coming together and being a family. The connection just it will never go away, and I'll never forget anything that's ever happened.
I think the excellence and the life beneficial experience speaks for itself, and now I'll turn it over to Dr. Goodman.
Thank you, Dr. Linehan, Mr. Calaswano, and Dr. Keogh for that very interesting and well thought out presentation, and I know that everybody can see how great our teachers and staff and students are here. And now, for the very exciting budget part, we shift to Ms. Sparks. Before we take a deep dive into the revenue and expenditures, please note the variables and drivers that impacted our decision making. Our primary goal when building the budget is to allocate our resources in a way that meets the needs of all students in the district while also being fiscally responsible. Ms. Sparks will also discuss, as she did last week, the variables or last board meeting, I should say, that financially affected the budget for next year, including inflation and the big increase in transportation costs. Since the last budget presentation, though, at the board's request to reduce the levy increases, Ms. Sparks and I have reviewed ways to accomplish this, and we thank the board for that request.
That's going to be hard to top. The 2023-24 budget has proven more difficult than the budgets of the past few years. Inflationary pressures are starting to catch up with us, and with the tax cap, we are limited with revenue increases. There are 2 growth factors in the New York State tax cap calculation that are set by the state and the district has no control over. The allowable levy growth factor, also known as CPI, which for the 23-24 school year is capped at 2% for the formula, even though CPI is at 8%. And the tax-based growth factor, which is 1.0065 for 23-24, it's an increase over the current school year. That measures the brick and mortar growth in our district. Other factors that are part of the formula are pilot revenue, which are payments in lieu of taxes, and debt service for capital expenses net of building aid. Those are added back as an allowable expense in the cap. When we went through all the steps of this multi-step formula, the calculated maximum allowable tax levy for 23-24, or the tax cap, is $31,737,172, or a percent increase of 4.38%, or $1,333,190. As was discussed in the past meeting, in an effort to be mindful of the impacts of inflation on our taxpayers, and taking into consideration the support the residents have shown for our 3 recent capital bond referendums, we did a deep analysis to see if there was any way to not have to levy to the maximum amount of 4.38%. This leads us to our next slide, where we looked at fund balance and year-end projections to see what we could do to bring this number down. The top of this slide shows our current reserves. You can see 72%, or $7.75 million, of our reserves are set aside in special reserve funds. The remainder is split between assigned and unassigned. As we then look closely at our 22-23 estimated revenues and expenses, we see that we are anticipating a surplus of approximately $670,000. This puts us in a favorable position for the year end. We also considered the 37% increase in foundation aid that I'll discuss later that we will be receiving for 23-24 when reviewing the decision to use appropriated fund balance to balance the budget. Being that foundation aid is a recurring revenue, we feel even more confident in our ability to lower the levy under the cap. As a result of this deep analysis, we are proposing to allocate $500,000 of the anticipated year-end surplus to appropriate towards next year's levy to lower the percent increase from 4.38% down to 2.74%. Doing so will not increase appropriated fund balance used to balance the budget over the current year amount. While we understand that not levying to the maximum cap this year will impact future year levies, we feel confident in the level of contingency built into the budget, along with the projected increases in recurring state aid revenues, that this is the right thing to do for the taxpayers of our district. So going back to the calculation, although this multi-step formula puts us at 4.38%, we are proposing the 23-24 levy to be $31,237,172, which is a 2.74% increase, or $833,190. This proposed tax levy is $500,000 below the maximum allowable under the tax cap, keeping $500,000 in the pockets of our taxpayers. This is an illustration of the multi-step formula. You will see we have rows T, U, and V at the bottom, which shows that we are proposing to levy well below the maximum allowable amount. The tax cap law was implemented to ensure that property tax increases do not exceed certain limits each year. The limit is determined by a formula that takes into account inflation and other factors. Each year, we carefully review and work through the tax cap law and formula and have designed our budget in compliance with the law. We have ensured that the proposed tax levy increase is within the legal limit set by the law and designed to provide a balance between meeting the needs of our students and the financial burden of our taxpayers in this inflationary environment. We understand that any increase in taxes can be challenging for our taxpayers, and we have taken this into consideration in our budget planning process. We work to find ways to balance the needs of our students and the financial impact on our taxpayers, and believe the proposed levy increase is a fair and balanced approach. And now we shift to foundation aid. The governor's budget has a foundation aid increase of $913,000, or 37.88%. When the 21-22 budget was enacted, it included in the law that districts receiving more than 10% or $10 million increases in foundation aid seek public comment on the use of these funds. As we have done in the past 2 years, we will be sending out a survey to gain public comments, so keep an eye out for this in our happenings. Here you will see a summary of our proposed revenue budget, starting with real property taxes at an increase that is $500,000 below the legal tax cap limit. One other line is pilot and sales tax. While we are seeing that trends are starting to return to normal, we are projecting to increase sales tax revenue by 12.6%. Next, we have charges for services, which is primarily non-resident tuition, which includes students placed in our district through CSC with other districts paying this tuition. Our state rate, so the rate we charge other districts, is set by New York State, and we've also seen an increase in our state rate, so that is increasing our projected revenues. Other revenues I'd like to point out with big changes is it's the other revenues line, which includes use of facilities and interest. As interest rates have been rising, so have our interest earnings. We were able to significantly increase the revenue budget for interest income from $15,000 to $100,000, or 567%. While the Fed continues to raise rates, this increase is still conservative compared to the year-end projections where we think we will be for interest earnings this year, as we know they will not continue to raise rates in perpetuity. We also increased revenue for real property taxes 400% from $5,000 to $25,000 as we are returning to normal from the pandemic and starting to see the use of our buildings pick up. For state aid, as I mentioned before, we are getting a 37% increase in foundation aid. This increase allows us to maintain current programming and small class sizes. As we anticipated, there is a decrease in building aid of about $300,000 due to aid for the 2006 capital project coming off of the books. But we are still working with SED on our building aid formula, and hopefully we'll have that adjusted soon. Overall, the state aid increase is at 19.5% at $825,730. The legislative budget is due on April 1st, 2023. Right now, we are working off the governor's proposal. There is also an increase in next year's BOCES aid of about 18%. That's a one-time increase because we are paying for our wireless project this year, and we get the aid on that for next year. You will also see a decrease in interfund transfers. This has to do with our ban, our short-term financing sale in April of 22, where we had to pay, we used that revenue to pay the ban interest this year. So as of now, it's not going to happen next year. If we look at our revenues as pieces of a pie, you will see that real property taxes make up the biggest piece at 77.9% of that pie. Now we pivot from revenues to expenditures. We will discuss some of the driving factors impacting the 23-24 budget, with salaries and benefits making 71% of our budget. Our 3 collective bargaining agreements have all settled through June 30th, 2025, which makes it easier to budget. Health insurance increases. We have 2 health insurance consortiums that we're part of. Our biggest one is increasing 8%, and NICESHIP, which is the state's plan, is increasing 14.17%. For the state retirement system, these are the pensions. TRS is estimated to decrease to 10% of salaries. The current rate is 10.29. And the employees' retirement system is for everyone that's not certified, not a teacher, is going to increase to 13.1%. The current rate is 11.6. Now we turn to transportation. All of our 2 transportation contractors informed us that they will not renew for 2023-24 at CPI. So we had to go out and issue bids for our home-to-school in-district transportation and our out-of-district and special ed transportation. As of today, we received back our proposals for our home-to-school in-district transportation, which was a 37% increase over the current year. We are still awaiting the results of the bid for our out-of-district and special ed transportation. We are also seeing big increases in facilities and utilities costs, with electricity increasing at 32%, natural gas increasing at 43%, and other utilities increasing at 29%, such as oil, sewer, and water. Facilities maintenance costs are increasing at about 37%. These are costs for maintenance, minor repairs, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and painting and carpentry. While there are a number of budget drivers that are increasing significantly, there are also some budgetary reductions. These were one-time expenses included in the 22-23 school year budget that will not recur. Purchases of furniture and equipment, a decrease of $74,000. Expenses for our wireless upgrade, a decrease of $108,000. One-time textbook and curriculum purchases, a decrease of $114,000. There is also a decrease of $200,000 in our transfer to capital. While this is not a one-time expenditure, as we've had it in our budget for a few years, given the approval of the 2023 bond, we propose reducing this by $200,000 down to $50,000. Being mindful of all we've asked of our taxpayers, this budget line allows us to do other capital repairs outside of capital projects. This chart shows a breakdown of the 23-24 proposed budget by function. The 2023-24 proposed budget is $40,113,060, a percentage increase of 4.9%, or $1,887,560. These numbers reflect the budget highlights that were discussed in previous slides. As you could see, the largest budget-to-budget percent increase is in our transportation costs. Interfund transfers has an overall decrease of $200,000. This line includes our transfer to special aid fund to cover our summer special ed program and that transfer to capital line. Here you'll see the information we just presented in a pie chart, and not surprising for our school district, the largest piece of our pie is instruction. This chart shows the breakdown of the budget categories slightly different. It gets more specific, showing what portion of the budget is salaries, benefits, materials and supplies, contractual costs, and BOCES services. And you can see more clearly the impacts of the reduction in one-time expenses reflected in this chart. When we put these into a pie chart, you will see that salaries and benefits make up the biggest part of our budget, the blue and red, at 71%. So our budget summary, the 2023-24 proposed budget is $40,113,060, a 4.9% increase, a dollar increase of $1,887,559. The proposed tax levy is $31,237,172, or 2.74%, and in dollars, it's $833,190. This increase is below the legal tax cap limit, keeping money in our taxpayers' pockets. Where does this leave us? We are required to have a balanced budget. Looking at proposed revenue budget before appropriated fund balance and the proposed expenditure budget, we are left with a budget gap of $1,322,897. How do we close this gap? As a public school district, we are limited in the ways we can generate revenue. Our budget includes an appropriation of fund balance to balance our budget. The proposed 23-24 appropriated fund balance is $1,322,897, which is still a reduction from the 22-23 level of $37,631. As you can see reflected in the next chart, it's not increasing, it's actually slightly decreasing.
Thank you, Ms. Sparks. And I forgot to thank Dr. Sweeney. I'll thank her again when I thanked everybody for that great presentation. A budget is a reflection of a district's values, and we believe the proposed budget captures our innovation and commitment to our students. Our highlights permit staffing that supports favorable class size. We are also excited that the proposed budget allows for professional learning and new programs that promote innovation and critical thinking. You've seen some of those programs today because we have piloted them in the middle school and high school. This budget reflects a focus on early literacy, which you'll see next at our next board meeting, and rigorous science standards. It also expands opportunities for advanced courses by introducing new electives in all content areas. Our proposals are linked directly to our strategic plan. We appreciate the support of the board and community as we enact a plan that prepares every student for excellence. Here you will see our budget calendar. We kicked off our series of conversations with a comprehensive overview of the financial landscape and an update on our priorities and commitments. Tonight, we focused on the middle school, high school. I again thank Dr. Linehan, Dr. Keough, and Dr. Sweeney and Mr. Calaswano for their presentations and input, their continued focus on continuous learning and improvement at high levels for teachers, staff, and students. I thank our teacher leaders who contributed to tonight's presentation, Ms. Melanie Buchanan, Ms. Suzanne Diarco, and Ms. Danielle Pravade, Dr. Gia Lorenza, and Ms. Kristen Vincenzi. And of course, Mr. Duchateau, who put together that video like right up to the last moment, because we decided to put it because the show was so incredible this week. We really do have great teachers here. Tonight's spotlight on the middle school and high school provides the secondary students with an approach of education in which students actively engage in learning and challenges to gain knowledge and skills through inquiry and hands-on experiences. The 23-24 budget for the middle school and high school focuses on courses and professional development to increase student engagement, motivation, and critical thinking skills, which lead to improved academic outcomes. On April 11th, please note that's the new date of the next board meeting. We had one that was during our holiday recess, so we just changed that. On April 11th, we will return our attention to the elementary school. We will be joined by Mr. Marash, Mr. Kilgallen, Dr. Keogh, and Dr. Sweeney, who will all talk about the work in which the building has engaged related to integrated co-teaching, literacy, and changes in rigorous standards for science. We will also make sure that there is no questions left unanswered at our meeting on Monday, April 18th, where the board will vote to adopt a budget. On Monday, May 8th, the administrative team will present the final budget to the community for a hearing before the annual vote and trustee election on Tuesday, May 16th. Looking ahead, there's so many people we thank. We appreciate the support of the Board of Education. They are a driving force in everything that we do. And I appreciate the administration, teachers, and staff in this multifaceted work. Last year, we were named one of the 100 best high schools in New York, and this year we saw our rankings climb in the local Westchester Magazine publication go from, we were 35 4 years ago, then we were 31, then we were 25, and this year we are 20 in Westchester Magazine. This is a great time for a Tuckahoe Tiger. Thank you, Dr. Linehan, Mr. DeBellis, and Mr. Qualisuano for your determination, care, and leadership of the students, teachers, and staff. A special thanks, first of all, to Dr. Linehan for his so many years of service in the high school, has supported so many teachers and staff, and now taking over for the middle school, too. We appreciate your dedication and support and the job that you have done here. And also Mr. C for taking on the new role, totally supporting students in student services and sports and extracurriculars. Special thanks to Dr. Keogh for your stellar leadership in curriculum and instruction. So much of what we see here tonight is because of your incredible leadership. And Dr. Sweeney for your continuous focus on ensuring the best possibilities for our students with learning differences, and always being so incredibly fiscally responsible as you do that. And thank you to Ms. Sparks, who always can make a budget sound exciting and understandable, for your thoroughness, fiscal responsibility, and flexibility. Thank you to our teachers, who are really exceptional. As you can see tonight, our educators are focusing on rigorous and meaningful learning experiences for students. They are helping students develop important skills such as collaboration, communication, problem solving, and creativity, which are essential for college and the workplace. When students are given the opportunity and support, they are more motivated and invested in their learning. This leads to increased academic achievement as students are more likely to retain information and apply it to new situations. The budget supports students in developing important skills, as you saw today, related to research, analysis, and evaluation. Through their courses, they will conduct this type of research and this type of project-based learning. These skills are critical for success in college and career, where individuals are often required to work independently, collaboratively, and think critically. Tonight, you saw how incredibly smart and talented our students are in academics, in sports, and the arts. Thank you to our community. Tuckahoe School District's community cares about all students and moving every student forward. This community comes out all the time and cheers for each and every student in all their endeavors. It is why people are moving to Tuckahoe. And people keep calling my office and there are no houses for sale, but they do want to move here. The proposed budget for the secondary school includes programming investments and resources that will allow us to keep up the momentum as Tuckahoe leads the way. This is my favorite. Thank you for your attention to our district's proposed budget. The rainbow that's shown brightly over our Kylo Field the evening before our ribbon cutting is a perfect symbol of the potential that comes from our community's investment in our students' success and experiences. Tuckahoe truly leads the way, and I am very fortunate to be here. I am now happy to open the floor up to discussion. Thank you.
You want to mention about the Monday, the date? Yeah, okay. Because I noticed that too. It's Tuesday, not a Monday. Yeah. So we need to fix that. Yeah, we had that date as Monday, April 11th. It's really a Tuesday, April 11th.
All right. Okay, that was a long one.
But a good one.
But it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably one of the best presentations that I've seen since being on this board. Really, really well done. Obviously, a lot of time and effort went into that, so we appreciate that and we thank you for that. The video clips and the samples from the classes are just awesome to see. Really good for us to see, really good for the community to see. So, I mean, this is a really good way to drive home a budget, in my opinion, to put that type of effort into what all this is doing for us and where we're going. So really, really good presentation. Thank you very much for the time and effort. Really appreciate it. And then really, good budget too. I mean, I have to commend Faith and Dr. Goodman for really putting together a pretty masterful budget, really, after the last meeting we had, and we kind of talked about ways to get that higher than usual number of tax levy down, and you guys really came back with something really creative and good. And the fact that we're able to get all of this in an inflation year that we've had and still have such a low levy increase, I think is really, really a testament to how hard you worked at it. So really appreciate that, Faith, as a taxpayer. Appreciate it. I mean, actually, you lowered the levy that was originally budgeted by 40%, which is very significant, and still kept that budget gap going down.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we really gave up, was really not going down as much, but still going down. So really, really well done. So, all right, so I'll open it up to any other comments and questions. I guess we'll just go down the line. You want to go first, Cynthia?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say thank you to really the whole administrative team, because I really thought that presentation was amazing. I always love to see when we can hear from teachers and students. I mean, it makes it so much more evident as to what's really happening here, because sometimes we see like the words, or not that no one's in disbelief of what people are saying, but to actually see it and it comes to life is just so much more meaningful. So I do want to thank you all for like just putting so much time and effort in it, and for allowing everyone to see really what the great things that are happening here. So I did want to say thank you. I don't know, are we doing any questions? I just
if you have
I'm not
that-
going to say too many, because then it takes away from everybody else.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask just about the pilot programs, like the LATIC and the no red ink and those things. Are we looking to, because I know they were pilots, because we obviously want to see if they work, but going into the new year, what is sort of the projection of how it's going to be rolled out, and with which classes, grades, and that kind of thing?
So the No Red Ink and the vocabulary.com is coming to the entire high school. We probably will. So it was just a pilot this
Right, that's what I
last
thought,
time.
yeah.
So I know it could have been a little confusing, because you saw teachers using things that we are saying that are in the budget. We might use some of that also in the middle school. Again, we are still using Writing Revolution, but we felt, especially in the upper grades, that students really needed something different. And I love the vocabulary.com, that it's not just, that it's really using the vocabulary in real life. And the SAT, ACT part of both programs is a benefit. And it's really great for students to use, for everything. Really gets them ready, so important. And we do have, as you saw, our region scores are good, but we need to be better, and we always strive for that. And we really thank our teachers for really working together with Dr. Keough to come up with these really great programs. It was very much a collaborative effort. So those will be next year.
And then what about the LATIC?
So the LATIC has been, so we had a group of teachers that were trained this past year, and you saw some of them doing the work that they were doing. Didn't you love that Cottle presentation?
That's why I was
Yeah,
wanting to.
and, but they were all great. So there's a group of teachers that were trained. Those teachers will come back with our professional learning to be for the next level, but another group of teachers will join them. So that's one of the goals that we have, is to continue to increase the number of teachers that are trained in this type of learning, teaching and learning, really.
All right, I'm not going to say
Did I leave
anymore, 'cause
anything
then it
out?
takes away. I know how it feels to
Dr.
go
Keogh,
last,
did
so
I
I'm
leave
not-
anything out?
Hey, Laura.
I'm up.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. Is this working? Yeah. Thank you. That was great. Great presentation, Dr. Goodman, and to all the staff, thank you. That was, and thank you for mentioning John. That was very nice of you. Thank you. But I can't say that without thanking everyone that has been very instrumental in his life in this district, and just for all the children, really. They are not doing it certainly on their own. You know, there's coaches and teachers and mentors in this building that have made it an amazing experience, not just for my son John, but for all three of my children here when they were here. So thank you for mentioning that. And I am excited to hear about the new curriculum coming. I do just have a couple questions. So just to piggyback a little bit on what Cynthia was asking. So when you do something like LATIC and no red ink and things like that, and you bring the curriculum in, although we're piloting it, when you do bring it in, is there a, throughout each grade, so you said 9 through 12, is it, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it uniform? All the teachers participate in it? Because one of the things I think when we've seen curriculum in the past come in, right, you see sort of, you know, this is new and that's new, and there's maybe a teacher here and there, but there isn't that sort of across the spectrum of all teachers. How does that work when you bring it in?
And for that reason, we actually came to No Red Ink for that reason, because No Red Ink had that articulation piece where we were able to provide those assessments and see where we are across the board. We're all speaking that same language. So much of English instruction is finding resources relevant to the text. The texts are different, the levels are different. So in terms of that vertical articulation, we found that No Red Ink not only provided the resources, the differentiation, but those diagnostic assessments that allow us to really articulate 9-12. So to make sure that we're all doing what we need to be doing at the times.
So when you jump from iReady, which is middle school, and you have just, let's say, a baseline there for a student, they come into 9th grade, is that baseline then reestablished with No Red Ink? Is it a test type of thing where you get a baseline on a child from it?
In relation to writing, yeah. So you'll see that the areas that need growth, we have other assessments that are more tiered to the standards. So this standard we need to support, kind of like what Ms. Buchanan was talking about in terms of looking at the standards rather than the overall assessment. You know, this is a 90, but this skill is what really needs to be focused on. So No Red Ink gives us that. iReady gives us that as well at the middle school, but it's a lower, grade. It's more cartoonish.
So also
this
to
provides
answer
that,
some of what you might have meant by that, so at Kindy, let's say the standards-based program for grading that you saw, that was piloted. But now all the other teachers in science can start to use it. So it's not like one teacher is using it. One teacher might have piloted it. And the same thing with, LATIC, but that's a slow build. And of course, that project-based learning is one technique. It's not all the time in every class. So we're building on that. But I think we answered that. Any other, was that clear?
Yes. And then I just had a question. You mentioned the ELA high school AP, and there was 11 students you mentioned in that slide?
Last year, that's okay.
Last year, so there were 11 students. So I think one of the things that when I see, how many, so that's in the whole high school. That's, 11, I guess whoever's taking it, 11 and 12. One of the things that I would love to see as far as just a metric or an objective measurement is that there's more, right? 11's, it's good, but I think we can certainly strive to have more than that. And I think that hopefully the programs and the writing, I think Writing Revolution was great, but I do think it's it's a foundation, right? And I think that bringing some more robust writing is going to be great.
Yeah, we're really excited about that too.
Yeah, excited about that, so thank you. I had one other thing, sorry. No, I think that's it. Oh, and the budget. Sorry, thank you. Yes. Oh, hi, Lori. Yeah.
Lori's here.
Snuck in. Thank you for redoing that, and I just have to give a little shout out to Pete, because we did look at that budget, and we all sort of saw that number and were nervous about it, weren't really overly excited to push that out to the district. It's a lot, it's a jump. And we have asked our district for a lot, and we've done bonds, and we appreciate all the support that the district has given us. But Pete, because you've always been about bringing not grabbing more of our reserve, right, holding on to that, and the goal was to push back on that or to decrease that. And, but, that was a good, Pete jumped in and said, let's redo this. So it was good. Thank you for doing
No, it's
that.
team
And thank
effort.
you, Faith and Dr. Goodman, for coming back to us with a really good budget. So thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
really
done.
good.
Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to learn a little more about, I thought was really interesting, was a little more about the standards-based grading that I heard in the presentation. If you can expand upon that a little bit more, and I think I understand it. I think basically what we're talking about is when there's a test or an exam, it's graded based on how well a student achieved each of the competencies that are put out in that test versus an overall grade for the test. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the typical model is you'll complete a unit, you'll get a unit assessment, and that unit's based in the standards. It's not that we're not doing standards-based grading, but the kid gets a grade that might not explicitly link to the standards. Or that information might be available to the teacher, it's not necessarily available to the student. So standards-based grading makes that a little bit more transparent.
Yeah.
And Kindy as a tool helps to make that a little bit more accessible.
Right, and I guess also because, let's say a kid gets an 80 on a test, they may have achieved that by doing really, really well in one section of the test, but could have bombed the other section of the test and still came out with an 80, but, so it seems like it's okay, it's pretty good, but there's a whole concept they missed.
Exactly. That gives the teacher that information and the student that information, because too often kids get back, just like you said, an 80, 85, that's a good score, but we don't sit back and say, well, what did the student miss for the individual student? And also as a teacher, did my whole class miss this whole part? Do I have to reteach it to this group of students?
Yeah.
Or do I have to redo it for the whole class? So it really makes grading meaningful.
It makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess my question is the plan to eventually roll that out across the board? Is that sort of how all grading is going to be done at Tuckahoe at some point? Is that the idea?
It requires a huge shift, especially in terms of report cards and things like that. And
that was my next question. How does
Yeah,
it translate
it's
into
big.
the final grade? How does that work?
So we're trying to find this world right now where we're able to still use the structures that we have across the grades with other content areas, and still pilot this. So right now what's happening is students take tests, and then Ms. Buchanan is identifying the questions and their linkages to the standards, and then they're using spreadsheets to see and to track what standards that they mastered and what they haven't. So we're kind of finding this middle ground where we're using the traditional assessment model and introducing these concepts of standards-based grading.
But to say that we wouldn't want to go this way eventually, we want to make sure that teaching, learning, and assessment are all connected. So you just have to always go back. It's like a circle. So maybe that's one way to do it, but as we develop, we just need, and a lot of teachers do this, but we need to be much more uniform in doing that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting, and I really liked what I heard there, because to me, we all know grades are important for transcripts and for college, but I feel like sometimes, not just us, just high schools all over the country, there's such a focus on number grades, and what's lost is what is actually being learned, and what's being retained, and what's being, absorbed. Yeah, exactly. So I like this approach way better. Understand that there's some challenges to traditional models and things
I was
of
going
that
to say, I think
nature.
it's a good way for both teachers and students, of informing instruction. Like you
Yeah.
said, for individual
It's good
kids,
feedback,
for
yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
class, it's good for both.
Yeah.
The teachers and the students.
So then right now, if I understand you correctly, what's probably happening, I guess, if I interpret what you're saying, is that they're still getting a traditional grade to put in the transcript, but
Still getting that 90.
but then there's that breakout of their standard-based score based on the sections.
They have a deeper understanding of what that 90 means. I got a 90 because
what
that one
skill is
section,
needed to
and it's
work.
connected.
And hopefully their grades will improve because we know where the weakness is, because so many times, what you learned and you missed will have an effect on the next level.
Yeah.
So, it loops kind of, so then we know where the student is, the teacher knows where the student or the class is, or a group of students, and then we can teach more effectively.
So the example we saw, the teacher that was speaking about it was from science, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So is that just where it is right now, just right there?
Yeah, and it's a really good place for it to be because of the change in standards and also because of the higher likelihood of overlap between the sciences. So it used to be like, oh, I got through bio, now it's chemistry, it's going to be a whole new animal. But now we're seeing the standards want to see more of those cross-cutting concepts and patterns and trends repeated and scaffolded through those subjects. So we feel like it's a really good place to, implement this and see how it goes.
Is there a thought to use it, because I'm thinking math would be another.
So, yeah, and we've talked about like
definitely
how
math,
quantitatively it's also another really good place to go to it. Yeah. So I mean, I think we're really gonna watch, like see how this goes with science and in terms of like and happy to report out about how that's going next year too.
Yeah.
Because it is something that's been discussed a lot in terms of grading and assignments and really how they help inform learning. If it's more about achievement. Or is it more about learning? And we really want to make sure everything we're doing in a learning organization is about learning.
No,
So,
really good stuff.
Moving that over.
I don't have any other questions, just a comment. It's been said before, but I just want to say it again. That LATIC stuff is really great. I mean, it's really awesome. It excites me. It's exactly what we've been talking about all along. And you mentioned it, and I wanted to double up on your comment. What I liked most about what we saw was the presentation aspect of it. I think it's such a great skill for our kids to get used to presenting in front of people and presenting ideas and thoughts, and to see them do it so well, it's really, really cool. So I love that stuff.
Like they weren't trying to be someone they're not. They
Yeah.
were being
Right.
these
It was so
entrepreneurs who
great.
are,
Yeah, and the
16,
working and the
17.
collaboration, working together. It's nice to
And
see.
working off of data that they
Yeah.
collected,
Well,
that's what you do.
Yeah, and you could just see, like, these are the skills these kids are going to need in this century coming up. Like, that's the stuff they're going to need.
Yep,
So it's really
exactly.
good. Yeah. That's all.
I just had a
Laura,
quick
I know
note.
you missed a lot of the
Sorry,
presentation.
Laura.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I just real quick, Laura, and I'm sorry, I'll let you go. Just next year, when you mentioned that, just popped in my head. So when I think of like what's it called, the kindy, the different tests, so that the no red line, these sort of data-driven, right? So they get information. What I'd like to see as we use these tools is to see pre and post, right? So, and to also see not just pre and post outcomes of it, but then also see a consistent better, right? So it's great to see us moving up in the magazine. That's great because everybody's always, why are you guys number? So that's great, and I think that shows that we are improving. But as far as just SAT, ACT, because at the end of the day, that this is sort of these are not that one test says it all, and certainly GPA and all that, but I do think that to see when we looked at those numbers, right, a while ago, they were low, and a lot of it was COVID and stuff, but in addition to those tools, see the pre-post and then see those other numbers, see everything sort of go up. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'd love
It
to
does.
see that as
All
we
that
implement
data that
it.
leads to that big
Yes,
data that
yeah,
we
even though obviously we don't want to be driven by numbers, and we love this sort of diving into what they're missing and their critical skills and all that. But at the end of the day, we also want to see all that data go up because that's going to tell us a lot. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, were you able to listen on the car right now?
It was intermittent.
Okay, all right,
because
so
of the
you're
rain
a
and
little
all
bit of
that.
disadvantage here
Yeah, I'm
because
a
you
little
didn't
bit
see.
of a disadvantage, but was able to peek in. I'm sorry, I had death in my family, so I was in Philly, and I came straight here. So, but what I wanted to say is it's just so wonderful to see all of the work that's being done around curriculum and instruction and integrating into all of that, social and emotional, just being abreast and astute about the differences in our children and what they need to make them work to their full potential. And I just want to thank our leadership, our teachers, for hanging in there through such a difficult time and still coming out on top and still embracing all that is coming, and how they're doing it with such grace and selfishly, the time that they're putting in. And I just want to personally thank them. I appreciate them, I see them, and I think it's making our kids even better. Our levies going down, tax levies going down, but our numbers and rankings are going up. And I just imagine with all of these initiatives that are coming in and the excitement about it and the willingness of our staff to implement them and integrate it into everyday learning will only make those numbers go up and even more people want to come in. So I just wanted to just extend my heartfelt appreciation. My youngest one is McKenna, and I am so excited about what she's getting ready to experience at the high school level. That will be so different, sadly, than what my son and what my oldest daughter did at the same time. So I'm really excited. So Go Tigers. Yes, thank you.
Good stuff. Make sure you get your treats too. We got treats.
Oh, yeah, I could use that.
Which was
Thank
actually
you.
made this board meeting even more special. I already had one cookie already. They were very good, very good.
Thank you.
All right, great. So I think we can move on to the rest of our agenda. It doesn't seem like it's too heavy. But we do have well, this first recognition of the audience is actually next. So first recognition of the audience is our next item. If anyone wants to speak of anything on the agenda, and even if you want to speak about what you saw in the presentation, that's fair game as well, or any questions about that, and then anything on the agenda.
Also Peggy, PTA.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, it's a long walk. Hi, I'm Susan Mealy. I live in Chester Heights. Thank you to everybody. This was so awesome, and I am jealous that my kids are at the older end of the spectrum because I would have killed to have them benefit from everything that's coming down the pike. So thank you to everybody. The one thing that I just want to throw out there for your consideration is I would love to see more being done with school field trips. I know COVID obviously put a damper on those, so that's not, what I'm referring to. But we're so fortunate to live so close to the city with so many resources that people in Kansas would kill to have access to. But I find that our district's field trips stay in Westchester and are not really taking full advantage. So the things that I'm seeing in the presentation tonight are breaking boundaries. They're like amazing out-of-the-box thinking, but the field trip seems very, very narrow. So I don't know if that's a little off topic here tonight, but just while there's thought being given to next year, I hope that that's something we can look to ramp up a bit.
Yeah, it's something we spoke about as a board recently, and I think there's still a lot of progress to be made there. That's a very good point.
Yeah, the strings department has taken some amazing trips, but not all kids are in the strings program. So I would love to see that, come to life a little better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Really good point.
Hi, I'm Hope Stago. Sorry, I'm new to the whole process. So you were like, oh, no, never mind, I'm going to wait. So I have kids at Cottle, and I love this presentation. So excited about the curriculum that's happening. I've been a teacher in the city for 10 years and spent the last 15 years of my career in curriculum and instruction. So a lot of these programs are familiar to me, really exciting stuff happening in Tuckahoe. I want to implore you guys to really make this public to our community. I feel like there's it was mentioned that we're going to have transition meetings from Cottle to middle and middle to high, and I also feel like there's a lot of incoming kindergarten families who are new to the district who want to know, what is Tuckahoe High School like? What are my kids going to expect in middle school? And without being here, without fishing these details out from friends, I don't think a lot of people know this stuff, and it's really exciting. I feel like our district is going in a great direction, so please share and keep us parents of the little ones hopeful about our futures here.
That's a great point, and I think that a good idea, what I'll do, because people are reading the happenings, I'll have this specific board meeting that people can click on it.
That was such a great presentation.
Yeah.
I think so many of my friends have a little bit of worry about what are we going to do in middle school? All these people move, people leave, and it's so reassuring to hear about what we are doing and these awesome changes you guys are making. So thank you so much.
Good idea. Thank you.
And I do know that sometimes people miss because we send out a lot of emails and stuff. Just in our lives, we just receive a lot. So do you have, or maybe you can talk to our fellow parents and ask maybe if there's another way that we're missing to get information like the information that was presented today that can help. Should I be forwarding it to people?
I feel
like
Are your friends reading the happenings?
I mean, I think we read the happenings, and I think everybody's sort of in tune with that, but it's more like the in-person, what are they calling them? The principals chats that are going on at Cottle and that kind of stuff.
Maybe join one with this. That's
to
bring
finding
it
out
down
more
to
information
Cottle.
about middle
I think
and high
that's a good
school
idea.
with this exact stuff. I mean,
that's a great idea.
And this
Yeah, we're also going to have an open house in our new middle school, high school library and cafeteria, where we're going to invite a K-12 group so we could actually talk about the budget there. They can see how beautiful it is here. We have ideas for
A lot
that.
of the new kindergarten parents are not like hooked up yet with the PTA, so like the old-fashioned like stick a flyer in the folder. I know that sounds really old school, but like a lot of teachers are saying that's the best way to communicate with them. So like let them know about that open house. Like definitely, I don't think I would have known this stuff, but like I feel like I need to like tell all my friends to like guys, it's really good. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would have to agree with, because I'm thinking like when I was new, I didn't start coming to these things, I think, till much later, because I had no clue what was
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
in the
So
school.
the good
So
old-fashioned way is always,
might be
'cause
right
you
about
will
the
look at your
old-fashioned
kids'
flyer.
folder
The
when they
PTA is
come
always a
home.
great way to
Yeah.
be involved. Yeah. Speaking of PTA,
Speaking of
here I
PTA.
am. It's a great
Hey,
segue.
Peggy. Hi, everyone. Put my glasses on. I'm Peggy Angelo. I'm the PTA president. So, Hope, I appreciate your feedback. I too like papers. I loved when the Tuesday folder came home and you just tore through it and you saw what was going on. I agree that we could do probably more in terms of getting things in people's hands. I just happened to attend a seminar recently, and they would tell you the way to go back to post-COVID is to mail things to people's homes again. People are inundated with emails. People are, and nobody does anything on the first request, anything. You have to send something 2 or 3 times. So I appreciate the feedback. I just want to take a couple of minutes. This has been already an incredibly informative meeting to talk about the PTA. What an exciting celebration of the students, the teachers, the staff, the coaches. So thank you for that, and exciting for what's going to happen. The PTA, like the school, has been incredibly busy. We've done a few things in February, and I won't go too far into our calendar because I get to come every month if I want to and talk about our calendar. But we did hold the literacy night at Cottle, which was incredibly well received. It happened to be the night of the board vote, so that really was great to have people in the building. We did pocketbook bingo, which was, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, fundraising is a huge part of the PTA and how we were able to put on all these amazing programs. So that was a big success for anyone who was able to make it there. We also did another PTA bingo at the school. We had, this week we have the principal read aloud at Cottle, which is going to be on Zoom, which kids love that. They get in their pajamas and they get ready for like a good night read. We are also doing a PTA going to the Yankee game on the 16th. We are really excited. We're going to have a blood drive here. We are aware that you have to be, I think, 17, so it won't necessarily capture a lot of our students, but hopefully staff, and then it's going to be at the end of the day so we can have the community members come into the building and donate blood, which was really good. We are helping the math program here at middle school with Pi Day. We got an outreach from one of the teachers here about making Pi Day fun, so we are offering pizzas and apple pie, I think all types of pie. I think they just moved it to Wednesday due to the inclement weather. We have the art show that we're going to collaborate with the art teachers here, which we're super excited about, and then will be also a chance to showcase the cafeteria and the new library. And then one of our other large events, and I'm kind of appealing to the community at large, is our spring social. Hopefully many of you have received the invitation. That was a hard copy, came to your mailbox. We still have some going out this week, so hopefully you received them. Super easy to sign up for. It has you take out your phone. You can automatically RSVP if that's something that you would like to attend. It's a great event. It is our largest fundraiser in the district. Again, important for us as we continue to look at the 2023-24 school year in terms of programs that we can put on. But the one thing I do need help with is donations. So a lot of that event is, it's entertaining, it's fun, but we also have raffles and other silent auction items. And so if you are a community member, if you own a business, if you know of a business, if you frequent a business, and you could ask somebody to donate anything from a restaurant gift card, a service, some service we just talked about recently, or tutoring services, driver's ed, nail salons, anything. If you're a dentist and you want to offer free cleanings, anything that we can then raise money for at our event. If you go to the PTA, actually on your invitation, there's a link, but if you go to the website on the school district page, PTA, there's all the information about how you can get a donation. We have a form that you can give out to a company that obviously wants to know our tax ID and that they're giving a donation, so we have everything there that you can get. If you have a question, you can always reach out to me. We do have a bunch of amazing volunteers running the Spring Social, but it's just probably easier to reach out to me if you have any questions. And that's it. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the traditional.
Oh, I didn't even tell you the date of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
April 28th, it's my birthday.
That's right. Friday, April 20th. Yeah, it's important to talk about that.
It's always on my birthday or birthday weekend.
It's Friday, April 28th at the Field Club over in like the Bronxville area.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate it. All right. Go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for that lovely presentation. That was very informative, and I appreciated it.
Excuse me, could I have your name and your...
Elisa Forgione. You need my address? We give me addresses. 37 Ridge Street, Eastchester.
Thank you.
I happened to be in the school, and I noticed something that alarmed me a little bit that I just wanted to talk to you guys about, make you aware of. I'm sure you are aware of it. I was not aware that there were still teachers in the district wearing masks. And as a mother of a child who has a language-based learning disability, I just wanted to speak to you about the importance of having children have an equitable experience in the classroom. And I know that if my child was in a classroom with a teacher who had a mask on, that they would not be getting that equitable experience. So I did happen to make a copy of a report from the Cochrane Group, which is a gold standard of data analysis, a group of data analysts who, what they do is they donate their time. They're an international group. So they take the data from studies all across the world, all across the globe, and they crunch those numbers in a way that really helps the medical industry. And so what they determined by studying, I'll read this to you. We identified 78 relevant studies. They took place in low, middle, and high-income countries worldwide, in hospitals, schools, homes, offices, child care centers, and communities during non-epidemic influenza periods, the global H1N1 influenza pandemic in 2009, epidemic influenza seasons up to 2016, and during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's where all of their data comes from in terms of these studies. We identified 5 ongoing unpublished studies. 2 of them evaluate masks in the COVID-19. 5 trials were funded by government and pharmaceutical companies, and 9 trials were funded by pharmaceutical companies alone. Basically, 10 studies took place in the community and 2 studies in healthcare workers. Compared with wearing no masks in the community, studies only, wearing a mask may make little to no difference on how people caught a flu-like illness, COVID-like illness. 9 studies of 276,917 people. So of those studies, they all had to qualify for the Cochrane Group data analysis. And probably makes little to no difference in how many people have flu, COVID-like illnesses confirmed by laboratory tests. So this is the gold standard. So now my question is, how do we still have people teaching in front of a classroom wearing a mask? And do we know if that waters down learning? And if it does, by how much? I mean, we have children who are coming off of, I know my son was remote learning for a full...
You have about 30 seconds left.
Okay, my son, oh, I have a whole nother subject. I didn't realize it was timed.
Well, actually, this comment period was really for agenda items only. So there's another comment period at the end of the meeting for any items
Okay, I
only.
can come back.
So if you want to come back for that
That's
side of it,
perfect.
okay.
So then I
Do you
can
want to
wrap
finish
that
up
up.
this? Want to finish this
I'm
one thought?
finished
Yeah.
with that. I think that, like I can make you a copy of this. It was 9,000 pages. I just took out the very small, but information on it, but I just would like to bring it to your attention that, you know, there are kids who have these language-based learning disabilities, and going forward, how are we going to help those kids have an equitable experience in the classroom with the teacher with the
I
mask?
just have a question, because I know that we do have some, like in the city, some people are using masks that are clear, which make it then more visible for, like I'm thinking with speech and things like that. So I don't know if that's an option, because obviously you can't force people not to wear masks. That's just not an
So-
option, just like you can't force kids. I mean, it's someone's right to wear it,
Yeah.
whether we agree with it or not.
And some of them, I mean, I haven't seen many staff wear a mask, but sometimes, you know, part of the COVID guidelines is that, you know, now you don't have to quarantine, but you have to wear a mask during a certain time after you've had the virus. I mean, we're still following that unless you do tests for a certain number of days, you know. So I think that might be what you're seeing. I haven't seen many staff wearing a mask,
So
actually.
there's no staff wearing masks since COVID?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I see people wearing a mask, but I think it might be that. Now, sometimes people have, if they're high risk, they're supposed to wear a mask, you know, if, you know,
Not according to this.
well, no, I know, but
Not
we
according
can't,
to the data.
at this point, I don't think legally we would have a leg to stand on, but thank you for the data. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher. Yeah, you're welcome to come on back at the next comment period if you have something else. Okay, anybody else for this portion? Okay, all right, so we're going to run through our agenda, which isn't too bad. First is our consent agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 6. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Laura, any discussion on any of these items? All in favor? Okay.
I just have a quick comment. The district calendar, are we coming back before late? There's a question about the calendar. Is that on here?
Yeah, it's on the consent agenda. Yes, it was on there.
Are we
Yeah.
coming back before?
Yeah, we are.
We are?
Yeah, I know. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a hard calendar this year because Passover and Easter did not fall on the same time. So there's a Passover 4 days off, and then there's an Easter week off. So it was a complicated calendar to work with.
It just seems like we're in school later and later. Is that just me? Like, is it like June 30th?
I think a lot of
It always
yeah.
went to the end of June.
Work
I
in
think
the
it always
city,
went
and
till
you're
around
in
that.
school through the summer. You're lucky you're not in the city. Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, business of the board, because we voted on that, right, Robin? You got to vote for that? Yes, we did. Yeah, business of the board. Accept a donation. Whereas the Tuckahoe Union Free School District has been offered a donation from the Eastchester Eagle Sports Club to benefit the Tuckahoe Athletic Scholarship in memory of Augie Nardone at Tuckahoe High School, and whereas the district would like to accept such a donation, it is hereby resolved that the district shall accept the donation from the Eastchester Eagle Sports Club in the amount of $500. Do I have a motion? Lori? Second. Cynthia? Any discussion on this? Well, obviously, thank you very much to the Eastchester Eagle Sports Club for that donation. We appreciate that. All in favor? Okay. All right, approve a contract. Now, therefore, be it resolved that after review of the March 1st, 2023 proposal from CalG Construction Company Incorporated to provide construction management services to the school district in connection with the school district's 2023 bond project, the Board of Education approves the school district's retention of CalG to provide construction management services to the school district in connection with the project. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the board president and/or superintendent of schools to execute the standard form agreement between owner and construction manager as advisor between the school district and CalG dated March 13, 2023, and to execute such other documents and to take such other actions as are necessary to effectuate this resolution. Do I have a motion? Cynthia, second. Laura, any discussion on this? Yeah, so we're going to go back with CalG. It just makes sense being that this project is really just a continuation of the first one. So just for continuity and efficiency, it makes sense. All in favor? Okay. Next, approve a tax certiorari. Resolve that in the matter of certiorari proceeding instituted by Orange World LLC affecting premises located at 65 Maynard Street, Town of Eastchester, and designated as Section 34, Block 4, Lot 10. The Tuckahoe Board of Education hereby approves the refund of school taxes in the amount of $4,055.32. And whereas pursuant to a resolution of the board under Section 3651(1-A) of the Education Law, the Tuckahoe Union Free School District established the reserve fund known as the Tax Tertiary Reserve Fund to be used for the purposes of paying judgments and claims from tax tertiary proceedings in accordance with Article 7 of the Real Estate Property Tax Law. And whereas the district is liable for tax tertiary proceedings in the amount of $4,055.32, is hereby resolved that the Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby authorizes the increase of A 1964.400 refund of real property tax by $4,055.32 and a decrease of A864 tax tertiary reserve by $4,055.32 to be used in accordance with applicable laws for the purpose of paying legal fees, expenses, and tax tertiary judgments. Do I have a motion? Cynthia, second. Lori. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay, approve cooperative bidding. Whereas in the desire of the Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services to allow any officer, board, or agency of political subdivision or of any district therein adopting the resolution to bid jointly in those supplies, commodities, materials, and equipment set forth below, now therefore be it resolved that the Tuckahoe Union Free School District agrees to participate with other school districts of the Southern Westchester Board of Educational Services, Westchester County, New York, adopting this in the joint bidding of certain commodities as outlined in the resolution. Be it therefore resolved that this resolution shall remain in effect until June 30th, 2024, and be it further resolved that it is agreed that the specifications as presented will be used and that this board agrees to bid its required amount of said commodities jointly with other participating school districts and Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Educational Services. The recommendation of the Purchasing Steering Committee will be considered when this board acts on the purchases of said commodities. Be it therefore resolved that the invitation to bid will be advertised by BOCES in the Journal News in accordance with the provisions of Section 103 to the General Municipal Law. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Cynthia. Yeah, so we're not outlining here, but it's just stuff like paper goods, custodial supplies, things of that nature that we can bid jointly with other school districts. All in favor? All right, great. Approve a purchasing agreement. Resolved to approve a purchasing service agreement with Educational Data Services in the amount of $3,130 for the 2023-2024 school year. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Laura, any discussion on this? All in favor? Okay. Approve a consulting fee. Resolved that the Board of Education approves consulting fee with Diane Goodman Consulting Incorporated for a Superintendent's Day workshop on March 17, 2023, at an amount not to exceed $2,500. Do we have a motion? Lori, second. Laura? All in favor? And no relation to Dr. Goodman. different Goodman. Different Dr. Goodman.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Just in case.
We checked that out. We made sure that was legit. So, approve an agreement. Resolve that the Board of Education approves an agreement with the Westchester County Board of Elections for voting machines for the May 16, 2023 budget vote and election. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Cynthia? Any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay. And our last two items are first readings. There's nothing to vote on here. They're first readings of two new policy changes we have to make once again, as per state education law. We had to make some changes to these policies. So the first one is policy, is this a change or actually a new? It's a new one that we're required to put in, yes. This is a new policy that we're required to add. So the way these work is we read them or explain them 2 times, 2 board meetings in a row, and then on the third one we vote it in, or vote for it or against it. So this one is opioid overdose prevention policy 8111, and this is in an effort to ensure the health and safety of its students and staff. The district will administer an opioid opioid antagonist in its schools, specifically naloxone. Say it again? Naloxone, otherwise known by its brand named Narcan, for use during emergencies to any student or staff member experiencing a known or suspected opioid overdose, regardless of a previous history of opioid abuse, prior to participating in an opioid overdose prevention program and providing an opioid antagonist in the school. The Board of Education must develop policies consistent with the laws and regulations of the New York State. Both Nurse Higgins and Nurse Polis have completed the Narcan treatment training program from Southwest BOCES, and they are trained and qualified to administer Narcan if there is an emergency and the need arises. All right, so again, not voting on anything, that's just the first read. If you want to read the policy in its entirety, it's policy 8111.
I'm glad that's being made available.
Yeah, it's good. And next is a payroll policy, policy 6420. This policy reflects legal and regulatory changes related to the payroll procedures, including the comptroller's 5-point plan. In addition, the comptroller has recently promulgated regulations which will now require every employer participating in the New York State and local retirement systems to evaluate the status of certain professionals engaged by the employer. So that's another policy that we'll be implementing. Again, if you want to read the entire policy, it's policy 6420 on board docs. Okay? So that concludes our business of the board. And lastly, we have personnel recommendations. Resolved that the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School District approves personnel action items A through H as outlined below. Do I have a motion? Lori, second? Laura, any discussion on these items? All in favor? Okay, and that just brings us to our last recognition of the audience, and this is for any topic at all, if you'd like to speak.
Lisa Forgione again. I have a question about, I know you guys are having a superintendent's meeting. I think it's going to be this Friday, right? And so there was a notice that somehow came across my desk about the keynote speaker. So I just would like the board or maybe, you know, the superintendent to elaborate on how this keynote speaker was picked and what, you know, in the notice, you mentioned the goals of the district. So what are the goals of the district with regard to this keynote speaker?
So first of all, New York State Education Department has said that, you know, we need to do some training around CRE. And this speaker was known by one of our administrators, had heard her before speak. We are doing a workshop on Friday on implicit bias with our staff. So it's about, you know, it may not be it's like what we've been trained kind of to think when we think about certain people. So when you think about a, you know, lesbian, something might come to mind, a disabled child, black male, those kinds of things, to see what comes, I'm probably giving away the workshop so teachers will be ready to think about that. Just to think about, do we have any biases? And if we do, how would that affect us in the classroom?
Okay, so let me just read this. So biases, so that's right.
That is the focus of our workshop.
And diversity.
And diversity and biases, yes.
So what is the New York State law about this particular topic?
New York State says that we're supposed to make sure that we're culturally responsive in our educating of all students.
Right. Okay.
Well,
You can Google it.
Just to be clear, it's not, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Goodman, but it's not, as of yet, there's not a law.
No, it's the
guideline?
region's guideline. It's not a law.
Yeah, it's the culturally responsive sustaining education framework that the New York State
Right.
has put down as guidelines. There is a current bill in the New York State Senate that, if passed, will make adherence to those guidelines law. But that has not passed yet. But there is also, in addition to this framework, there's a initiative. I forget what it's called. So it's highly encouraged and highly encouraged by the state education department that these guidelines and this training be adhered to, and it's likely to become law soon.
Right.
Again, and this is, if you look at that, you can Google it, it's CRSE. There's 4 pillars to it. One of the pillars is professional development in the area of implicit biases.
Implicit biases,
Yeah.
okay.
So this is something that we're tracking pretty closely as a board. I know it's very controversial around the country, this type of stuff. And I think there is instances where it can be extreme and all that, so.
Yeah, only because I did Google this person's website, and
Yes,
there was
so
some
did I.
extreme language on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
And it did stand out to me. Look, I've been in the Tuckahoe district all my life, virtually all my life. And one of the things I think that we can be the most proud of here is our diversity and our
Yep.
relations. And I think we're probably the.
You have 30 seconds left.
It's okay, yeah, okay.
I think that we're probably the gold
you, Rob.
standard, if I can use the term again, of that, and other school districts should want to emulate what we have here in Tuckahoe. It's very special. So when I see things like this, I get a little protective, okay? And I know that there are people out there that want to drum up some racial divide in certain communities. I'm not going to say in this community because I have never seen that here. But I am protective of this community in that aspect. So I hope that when you do have this keynote speaker come in and she does, do her thing with the teachers, I hope that before you implement anything, the community is made aware.
She's not having us implement anything, so I know what her website has also, but the board has seen her presentation. It is really just about implicit bias, and it's important for us to be aware, that we all have biases. Additionally, I think that we are a special community. And I did meet with a representative group of students, which I told her, and they were students of every single race in the group I met with. Mr. Calaswano brought me a very great representation of a group, and by and large, every student said that they feel extremely supported in the school district, that they know that there's teachers or staff that they can go to if they need help, and that they think the school district offers them a whole variety of sports and clubs, and if they have a problem, they have somebody to go to. So that was students who are Black, Latino, white, but it's not to say, and I think we are very special, and I see it with the kids also, I see it with our teachers and staff, but it's not to say that we shouldn't be aware of our own biases and how they might affect us in teaching. That's all the workshop is about.
Absolutely, but I did take the opportunity to do a little bit of research, and what I think that we also need to drive home in this community is that equality means equal treatment, unbiased competition, and impartially judged outcomes. Equity, on the other hand, means equal outcomes achieved if necessary by unequal treatment. I think we should strive for the equality here, because equality lets everybody, in my opinion, reach their personal best and be given the tools to reach success. And that's what I'm so proud of Tuckahoe for, always having that underlying equality issue for all students.
So can I say something? So I totally agree with you on that. And, as Dr. Goodman mentioned, I had asked to see the materials that were going to be presented. And it's exactly what you just said. That's what it is. The materials that are in here are about addressing natural biases that all people have so that everyone's treated equally. So exactly what you said is what this training is about. It is. And if you look at that woman's, Dr. Goodman, not this Dr. Goodman, Dr. Goodman is coming. If you look at her website, you'll notice, amongst the other things that you saw, you'll notice that the service that she offers is customizable to the district. You'll notice it says it right there. And so Dr. Goodman made it clear what our makeup was and what we're looking for out of this training, and that's what we're getting.
Oh, good.
So,
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked the question because I know people in the community did have questions, and I did say I would come here and make sure that we were all on the same page, and it sounds like we are. So that's great.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear it. And I thank you for your time.
Yep.
And I also thank you for the great budget information.
Thank you.
I know she went over Robin, but we were taking up her time because we were talking back and forth, so we give her a little more time. Oh, you did? You actually did? Okay, all right, good enough. So what we're talking about, just so you're aware, because I know you're new to this forum, is we do have a 3-minute limit on public speaking, just so you're aware.
Got it. Okay, go. 2 quick questions. I think they're both quick. I feel like everyone is wondering about what the calendar is. So when is that information going to be released to parents? Today? Tonight?
Oh, hello. We will get it to you in the happenings. You will have it, and you can start to plan your vacations.
In the happenings, what is that?
Friday.
This Friday?
Mhm.
Okay, and so it is starting the Thursday before Labor Day again?
Mhm.
Okay.
No, it's not the Thursday. When is
It's
it?
not the Thursday?
No, I
So
got
this
that
year was
wrong.
the Thursday, I think.
I don't think that. I don't think
the
you
fifth.
guys are. I got to look at it.
Okay.
It's the Okay.
Okay, if there's any way to get that out like as
I
soon as
don't-
possible, I feel like it's really hard to plan when we don't know when the first
Labor
day
Day
of
is
school is.
Monday the 4th.
First day of school is September 5th.
September
First day of
5th
school
for
is September
kids.
5th.
Yeah, the day after Labor Day.
It's
For
the,
kids.
it's the staff that's starting
Okay.
before.
So
and that
what,
we
the
have,
kids need to be back on September 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, great. My second question is about athletics. I know the Tuckahoe cheer program at the high school level is awesome. I'm wondering if it's going to make a comeback for your younger kids. Right now we have Coddle kids going to Blue Devils to do cheer, and it's starting in 3rd grade. It turns into a really competitive program. I'm hoping for like a rec cheer making a comeback, or I know we have small numbers in Tuckahoe, but any other girls' sports like field hockey, lacrosse, and that sort of thing, are they being thought about at all?
There. You want to come up?
Yeah, maybe.
We have girls lacrosse?
Yeah.
In middle school?
Yeah, so we're looking to expand both of those sports. So cheerleading this year we implemented at the modified level. So we have modified middle. Yep. So we have modified and varsity cheer, and then also for lacrosse this year we have our varsity team, which kind of graduated from JV last year. So there'll be a varsity team, and then we're implementing for the first time modified girls lacrosse for middle school this spring season. We have about 14 girls registered, so we're looking forward to the future of that program.
Great.
Yep.
So what do the younger kids do to get ready?
So-
if they wanted to do that in middle school?
Yeah, so right now, school-related sports in the state of New York start in 7th grade.
Yep.
So anything before that would kind of be part of an intramural or a pay-to-play league.
So that's Blue Devils.
That's
and
Blue Devils.
Bronxville lacrosse. I
Correct.
feel like. Okay.
Currently, yeah. I mean, I spoke to another parent on the phone today, and it's something that I'd like to collaborate with to see if we can get like a youth, reinvigorated in Tuckahoe. Yeah.
Is that what Tuckahoe cheer used to be? It was for the little kids?
Like a
was-
pay-to-play,
like a
right,
pay-to-play
right.
program?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think just on the athletics, another good point to make is that what we've done a very good job, and Mr. C is doing an incredible job with growing our athletics, is that we partnership with Eastchester, right, and well, more so Bronxville, but those have been conversations, and the wrestling, those kind of things track. I mean, we've had students go to college for swimming, and there's just 2 or 3 in the program. So parents that are listening to this and are curious about it is a small district, so people sometimes say, well, they don't have the sports, and my child wants to swim, for example. We've done a great job with coordinating, and even ice hockey too. I mean,
Right.
it was Edgemont, 3 different districts, right? Eastchester, Edgemont, and so ice hockey again. You can do that too. So there's lots of opportunities for girls too, sports, and they do collaborate with the surrounding districts. So Bronxville tennis, there you go. Yes, yeah, track. We grew our track. Yeah, so it's ongoing, but it's nice that we can collaborate with them because they came to our softball. I think Bronxville Yes, that's a great idea. Yeah, no, I mean, because it does matter. Some people, they're thinking about that, and that makes their decision for them a lot of times, but yeah. Right.
Okay, is that it for comments? Anybody else? Okay, and that's it. We can adjourn our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Lori, second. Cynthia, all in favor? All right, thank you very much. Great meeting.
Great meeting.
Appreciate it.
Nice.
Oh, yes.